After graduation, my father left me a letter telling me that my biological mother was a billionaire. William never thought that his ordinary life would be completely overturned on his 22nd birthday. He sat under the parasol of an open-air cafe in Shanghai, his eyes fixed on the woman opposite him. The cup in his hand swayed slightly, and the aroma of coffee mixed with an indescribable uneasiness spread in the air. The woman was wearing a well-cut black dress, with a slim waist and an elegant face, as if time had never left any traces on her. She exuded a unique aura, a kind of confidence that is unique to those who are in control of the overall situation. The woman sat opposite William, looking at him quietly, her eyes full of complicated emotions. "Young, I am your biological mother." The woman's voice was very soft, but her tone was full of unquestionable certainty. William was slightly startled, then frowned and replied with a sneer. "My mother died a long time ago, and my father told me about this a long time ago." Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share. If you like this story, please let me know in the comment section. I will update the next part. William, your father has been lying to you. I really am your biological mother. The woman sighed softly, but her tone was extremely firm. This sentence was like a bolt of lightning, which shook William's mind. He stared blankly at the strange woman in front of him, his heart already surging under her calm appearance. He instinctively wanted to refute, but was speechless because of the other party's sharp eyes. The woman did not argue anymore. Instead, she took out a letter from her bag and handed it to William. "This is something your father left behind. Perhaps it can answer your questions." William looked down at the letter, and the familiar handwriting stung his eyes. His fingers trembled slightly as he slowly opened the envelope. A photo slipped out of the letter. It was a photo of himself and his father when he was a child, and the content of the letter made his breath freeze. Jean Xinyue. Hello, Ms. Yang Li, the child's mother. When you see this letter, I may no longer be here. I must confess to you that I took Yang away and created the illusion of the plane crash just to make you feel the pain of losing a child. You never had me in your heart, and I wanted to take revenge on you in this way. William stared at the words on the letter, and every word hit his nerves like a heavy hammer. He never thought that the father who was so kind and gave everything for him in his memory would do such a selfish and cruel thing. William quietly, with uncontrollable excitement and deep remorse in her eyes. She said softly, "Yang, when your father took you away from the Magic City in order to cover up his whereabouts, he deliberately put your luggage on that plane, creating the illusion that you had died. After the plane crash, I spent countless time and resources looking for you, but to no avail. It wasn't until a few days ago when I received this letter that I learned that you were still alive. Young, I'm sorry." Her voice trembled slightly, and her eyes became red, but she held back her tears and continued, "I have blamed myself all these years. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have been taken away and wouldn't have lived this life." William's scalp tingled, and his heart was in turmoil. He had never thought that the ordinary life he had always been proud of was actually the result of a complicated family dispute. "Yang, I know it may be difficult for you to accept, but I really want to make it up to you. You have suffered so much over the years, and I want to make it up to you." The woman's voice was trembling a little, but it was more of sincerity and regret from the bottom of her heart. William was silent for a long time, then slowly said, "If my father hadn't taken me away, would my life be different?" He looked at the woman in front of him, and mixed emotions welled up in his heart. He couldn't hate his father, but he just felt a little resentful. They blamed him for not being able to live a good life as a wealthy man in Shanghai, so he had to go to the countryside to live in seclusion and do hard labor. She blamed him for not having felt maternal love since childhood, and was mocked by her classmates as a motherless child. Blame him for making my life as a rich second generation become that of a child from an ordinary family. Every time I see others driving luxury cars with beautiful women, I can only envy them. All this happened so fast that he was at a loss. One moment, he was a poor boy who was laughed at by others, and the next second, he was the heir of the richest man. William stared at the letter in his hand, his mind in a mess. His life was torn into two completely different worlds by this sudden truth, and he didn't even know how to face the woman who claimed to be his biological mother. William's heart was in a tangle. "Forget it. I just want to be alone and calm down." He stood up, his voice calm, but with a hint of resistance. "Yang, where are you going?" Yang Li stood up subconsciously, her eyes showing anxiety and uneasiness. She stretched out her hand, but it froze in midair, and she didn't let it fall. "Go back to where I live. You don't have to come with me. I'll contact you when I think it through. William raised the business card she had given him before. His tone was light, but with a kind of indifference that kept people at a distance. Yongli slowly put down her hand and stood there, watching his back gradually go away, with a complex emotion flashing in her eyes. In the end, she said nothing and could only watch him leave. As night fell, an old residential area in the west of Shanghai became particularly quiet. William walked into the single apartment on the third floor, and after closing the door, he seemed to have lost all his strength and collapsed directly on the sofa. He closed his eyes and felt an unprecedented fatigue. Everything that happened today was too sudden and too absurd. On weekdays, his life couldn't be simpler. After get off work, he would either turn on his computer to play a few games with his old classmates, or refresh the series or play mobile games to support his wife. But now, he didn't even have the mood to open the game. His thoughts were like a wild horse that had run away, and he couldn't get them back. He thought that there were no more surprises in his life. His parents died early, and he barely completed his studies with the compensation from his father's car accident. Because of his withdrawn personality, his social circle was very small, and his life was monotonous but stable. However, today, a woman who claimed to be his biological mother broke into his world and shattered everything. This woman not only said that she was his biological mother, but also told him an almost unbelievable truth. She was the helmsman of a multi-billion-dollar group in Shanghai, and he was supposed to be the heir to that family. William was holding a cigarette in his mouth, his expression dazed. In the smoke, he began to think seriously how to accept this biological mother who had lost contact for more than 20 years. She looked glamorous and had a high status, but to him, she was still a stranger. Apart from the blood relationship, there was almost no connection between them. Can blood ties really easily help people rebuild their relationship? His mind was in a mess, but time passed unnoticed. When he came to his senses, it was already completely dark. His ashtray was full of cigarette butts, and the air was filled with the choking smell of cigarettes. William stood up, shook his head, and tried to calm himself down. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Boom, 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 boom. William was stunned and turned to look at the door. He rubbed his swollen temples and muttered, "Who would come to see me at this time? Who is it?" He approached the door, his tone sounding a little tired. A soft and charming voice came from outside the door. "Me." The voice was sweet and unfamiliar, leaving William confused for a moment. He had no female friends in his social circle, and it was even more impossible for a woman with such a soft voice to come to him on her own initiative. His first reaction was Yang Li, but after thinking carefully, this voice was obviously much younger than hers. He hesitated for a moment and finally unlocked the door. The moment the door opened, his eyes were attracted by the woman outside. Standing at the door was a tall and beautiful woman. She was wearing a purple corset dress, chestnut curly hair draped over her shoulders, and her face was delicate and almost flawless. With a slender waist, long white legs, and a pair of black strappy high heels, her appearance undoubtedly lit up the dim corridor. "Who are you?" William frowned and looked her up and down to confirm that he did not know this woman. The woman smiled brightly and said in a matter-of-fact tone, "I am your wife." William was stunned, his mind went blank. He had no idea what was going on. Why did this woman who looked so bright and beautiful suddenly appear and claim to be his wife? "Are you mistaken?" He calmed down and tried to read some clues from her face. "I'm not mistaken." The woman tilted her head, her voice a little naughty. "You are William. How could I be wrong?" The beautiful woman looked William up and down and giggled. "I really am your wife." William was stunned. "Wife?" He blinked, wondering if he had heard it wrongly. "When did I have a wife?" The beautiful woman standing at the door didn't wait for him to react. She stepped on her high heels and lightly squeezed past him into the house. A fresh fragrance spread and entered William's nose. He looked back at her blankly, at a loss. "Hey, big sister, is this considered trespassing?" William tried to ease his embarrassment with some humor. The woman didn't care. She looked around his small apartment and then stuck out her tongue at him. "It's your mother who's worried about you. She asked me to come over and check on you." "My mother?" William was stunned for a moment, then realized that it should be Yang Li. "Yes." The woman smiled with eyes curved and bright as the sunshine in early spring. "Why? Aunt, you didn't tell you about me." That, she walked straight to the living room, not showing any sign of shyness. William stood at the door, looking at her slender back. Her long, straight legs and flesh-colored silk stockings under her skirt were even more eye-catching. He secretly sighed. This elder sister is too familiar. Helplessly, he had to close the door and quickly followed. Sister, who are you? William finally couldn't help asking. The woman stopped in the living room, turned around and winked at him, and said in a brisk tone, "Formally introduce myself. My name is Susan, and I'm your mother's assistant." Assistant? William looked at her in confusion, wondering why an assistant would appear here. Then why did you say you were my wife? Susan raised the corner of her mouth, narrowed her eyes slightly, and moved her face closer to him, almost touching the tip of his nose. Why? Do you really want me to be your wife? William's heart skipped a beat under her burning gaze, and he quickly took a step back. As a social animal, he had never experienced such close contact. Don't joke like that. He lowered his head and avoided her, not daring to look at her face again. Susan giggled. Didn't you call me elder sister so smoothly just now? Are you shy? William was a little helpless and said awkwardly, I don't know your name, so I can only call you casually. Now you understand. Call me Sister Susan from now on, remember? Susan crossed her arms over her chest, tilted her head slightly, and looked playful. Okay, Sister Susan. William had no choice but to agree. He really couldn't deal with this cheerful and outgoing type. Susan smiled with satisfaction, then sat down on the sofa, patted her chest, and showed a proud expression. Actually, I am an orphan. Not long after you disappeared, your mother took me in and raised me. After graduation, I have been working as her assistant. William vaguely understood the relationship between her and Yang Li. From this point of view, she was indeed a family to him, but this inexplicable familiarity still gave William a headache. I told her that I need time to calm down. He sighed and looked at Susan helplessly. Can you go back first? Susan raised her eyebrows, with a teasing smile on her lips. Master, are you going to drive me away? After she finished speaking, her eyes turned, and her originally lively expression instantly turned into that of a wronged little woman. Her voice was soft and sticky. I was entrusted by Aunt Yu to take care of you. It's so dangerous for me to walk on the road alone in the middle of the night. I might even be followed by a drunk. Oh, stop, stop, stop. William was overwhelmed when he heard this and waved his hands quickly. If you want to stay, then stay. Stop crying. Susan smiled immediately, and her expression changed so quickly that William couldn't help but wonder if he had seen it wrong. This woman was so thick-skinned that it was admirable. Now I understand why your Aunt Yu asked you to come to me. William shook his head with helplessness in his tone. Why? Susan asked curiously, tilting her head. Because you are so shameless. William said seriously. Thank you for the compliment. Susan smiled generously, not caring at all. William was a bit amused by her carefree attitude. Compared to his strange mother, Susan's familiarity made him feel surprisingly relaxed. Although she was sometimes cheeky and coquettish, her energy was hard to resist. Susan picked up the ashtray and frowned. Men just don't know how to live. They smoke so many cigarettes and the coffee table is still a mess. She started to clean the house. When she bent down, her tall figure and exquisite curves made William involuntarily stunned. His eyes subconsciously fell on her slender legs until she turned back and gently patted his head. Have you seen enough, little pervert? William was brought back to reality by this blow. He quickly smiled and looked away, sighing in his heart. This woman really doesn't play by the rules. William was hit on the head without any preparation and suddenly became angry and looked up at Susan, who was smiling brightly in front of him. I was just looking at where the ground was dirty. Don't talk nonsense. Little wolf, are you still shy? Susan put her hands on her hips and giggled, with a teasing look in her eyes. That won't do. You are the heir of the Snow Mountain Group. You can't be so cowardly. William felt even more uncomfortable when he was stared at by her bright eyes and quickly made an excuse to leave. I'll go get the vacuum cleaner. Susan looked at his hurriedly slinking back, her lips curled up slightly, and she resisted the urge to continue teasing him. It seemed that with this young master around, her life would not be too boring in the future. After William and Susan cleaned up the living room, Susan came out of the bathroom after washing her hands and asked softly, Do you have any slippers at home? It's inconvenient for me to wear high heels. You're still planning on changing into slippers? You're not leaving, are you? William sighed helplessly, walked to the shoe cabinet at the door, rummaged through it, took out a pair of his slippers and handed them over. This is the only pair we have. Either you wear mine or keep wearing your high heels. Then I'll just wear yours reluctantly. Susan sat on the sofa, bent down, and began to untie the black, strappy high heels on her feet. William lowered his head and took a look and saw a pair of white and tender feet with beautiful arch lines and round and plump toes. Through the ultra-thin stockings, he could see the bright cardamom-colored nails, which were as delicate as a work of art. He looked at them a few more times unconsciously. Look at your eyes. Little guy, you like looking at feet so much? Susan raised her head and happened to meet his gaze, and she immediately giggled. Betty, you are really a little wolf. What? William blushed instantly and turned away hurriedly. I just wanted to see if you were dressed appropriately. Don't talk nonsense. Susan covered her mouth and laughed so hard that her body shook. She stared at William with interest, with a hint of teasing in her eyes. Okay, young master. I'm too worried. But, have you had dinner tonight? Not. Not yet. William was stunned for a moment, looked down at the time, and realized that it was almost 8 o'clock. Sure enough, I knew you definitely didn't eat. Susan took out her cell phone and took a look at it, with a sly look on her face. William was just about to suggest ordering a bowl of noodles when there was a knock on the door. He subconsciously looked at Susan and asked in confusion, "Is my mother here?" Susan was amused by his expression. She lifted her long, beautiful legs and gently kicked his knee. "What are you thinking about? I asked someone to bring the food up." As soon as she finished speaking, she walked to the door in her oversized slippers and opened it. Standing outside the door was a pretty girl wearing a smart women's suit, holding a large basket of lunch boxes, and bowed politely. "Mr. Jiang, this is the dinner you requested." "Well, put it on the dining table." Susan nodded. William stared at the pretty girl curiously as she walked in and put the lunchbox on the table. The girl looked weak and frail, not like a hotel waitress at all, but more like a college student. After the girl left, he couldn't help asking, "Who was that girl just now?" Susan smiled meaningfully. "Why, master, are you interested in her? How about letting her stay with you tonight?" No. William waved his hands repeatedly. "Who do you think I am?" Susan couldn't help but laugh a few more times. "Her name is Xiaoqing. She is my driver and bodyguard." Bodyguard? William was visibly stunned. "She looks so frail. Can she fight?" Susan raised her eyebrows with a teasing smile on her face. "Don't look at her frail appearance. Even if there are 10 of you, you are still no match for her." William curled his lips, obviously a little unconvinced. "Come on, I don't bully girls." "Oh." Susan narrowed her eyes and said in a playful tone, "Who was the one who was worried about the drunk following? And who was the one who was whimpering like a monster?" William was stunned for a moment, then reacted instantly. "You already have bodyguards downstairs. Why are you still crying?" Susan held her stomach and laughed until she was out of breath. She pointed at the dining table and said, "Stop talking nonsense and come and eat first." William helped to open the lunchboxes one by one. The dishes inside were so delicious that he drooled. "Isn't this too luxurious?" "This is considered ordinary." Susan sat down gracefully, picked up a piece of roast goose, and put it in her mouth, her cheeks puffed up, and said vaguely, "Your Aunt Yu's hotel chef can make you a full banquet." "Is this true?" William couldn't help but ask while eating. "How rich is my mother?" Susan looked at him and said mysteriously, "To put it simply, in the Magic City, as long as your mother is willing, half of the city's wealth can be in her hands." "Is it so outrageous?" William was stunned and almost couldn't swallow the food in his mouth. It turns out that he is not only a rich second generation, but also a true prince of Shanghai. I'll tell you slowly later. For now, just be at ease. There's no need to rush to learn about the company's affairs." Susan said with a smile. There was a hint of playfulness on her fair and delicate face. Her words were relaxed and comforting. William nodded. Although he looked calm on the surface, he was still a little overwhelmed in his heart. He couldn't imagine that he had such a huge family background. The Magic City is brightly lit at night, but Shermao Shishan Manor seems exceptionally peaceful. This villa area is surrounded by 3 mountains and 1 lake, and embraces Yuehu Lake. It has a vast area and pleasant scenery. Each villa is as quiet and independent as an island. On the second-floor balcony of the largest villa, Yangli was sitting on a hanging chair, holding a photo in her hand, lost in thought. Her eyes were gentle and affectionate. Her fingertips gently touched William's face in the photo, and tears welled up in her eyes. "Baby, Mom misses you so much," she murmured to herself, her voice as soft as the breeze, but full of endless maternal love. 21 years of yearning and regret finally came to an end yesterday. Over the years, she always felt that her life was incomplete, as if she had lost the most important part. But now, she finally found the lost beloved, and even the hidden pain in her heart disappeared. The sound of a Rolls-Royce engine approached from afar, pulling her back from her thoughts. She looked up and saw Susan's car driving into the manor. Not long after, a burst of brisk footsteps came closer from afar, and Susan's crisp and charming voice appeared at the door of the room with her figure. "Aunt Yu, I'm back. You're running so fast. You're not afraid of falling." Yongli put down the photo, and a smile appeared on her lips. Susan rushed over without hesitation, took Yongli's arm, and smiled sweetly and cunningly. "Aunt Yu, I saw Yang. How is Yang?" Yongli asked anxiously, her eyes full of expectation and worry. "It's okay. He was a little upset at first and smoked a lot of cigarettes. But after I teased him for a while, he felt much better." Susan answered with a smile on her face, and her tone was so relaxed as if she had accomplished some great task. Yongli patted her hands and said with a smile, "You, take it easy. Yonger just got to know me. Don't make him angry." "Don't worry, Aunt Yu." Susan made a playful gesture and said with a smile, "Our young master is so precious. I'm afraid he'll break if I hold him in my hands, so I must hold him in my mouth and take care of him." "You are so sweet-talking." Yongli smiled and gently poked her forehead. Seeing Susan's relaxed expression, she also felt relieved. Susan was brought up by her since she was a child, and she had been by her side handling affairs for many years. She was confident in her way of doing things and her personality. Moreover, in front of William, this girl always found a way to make people relax. "During this period, I still need your help." Yang Li's tone was gentle, but it was sincere. "Yonger is still a little resistant to his current identity. Please help him to adapt slowly. Especially me. I don't want any estrangement between us mother and son." "Leave it to me." Susan smiled and patted her chest, vowing, "Just wait. Aunt Yu, I will make sure that the young master will become a good son who loves his mother." Yongli smiled and shook her head, patted the back of her hand, her eyes full of satisfaction. "If you can really do it, then I will just promise you to Yonger as his wife." These words were said lightly, but Susan blushed immediately. A blush appeared on her soft face, and she stammered, "Aunt Yu, don't tease me. I'm going to take a shower first." After saying that, she quickly slipped out as if escaping. The next morning, sunlight shone into the room through the gaps in the curtains. William sat up from the bed and stared blankly at the ceiling. What happened last night reappeared in his mind again and again, and it always seemed a little unreal. Was what happened yesterday just a dream? He murmured to himself. At this moment, the phone on the bedside table vibrated, and a WeChat notification popped up on the screen. He took the phone and saw a familiar name on the screen, Susan. It seems that this is not a dream. He smiled bitterly in his heart and clicked on the message with his finger. Susan sent 2 messages. "Young master, are you awake? You couldn't sleep last night because I missed you so much, right?" William rolled his eyes and typed quickly, "Don't be so self-indulgent, sister." A few seconds later, Susan's reply popped up again. "Oh, master is so domineering. I love it." Below the message, there is also a selfie of her. In the picture, Susan is wearing a small suspender nightgown, leaning against the window, with her chestnut curly hair casually spread out and a lazy smile on her lips, looking charming and casual. William couldn't help but click on the photo, zoomed in, and looked at it for a few seconds before he suddenly realized what was happening. He dropped his phone, got up to wash up, and prepared to start a new day. However, he felt in his heart that the world seemed to be undergoing some unpredictable changes. Chapter 10. William started his long job search journey with full enthusiasm, sending out resumes and going to interviews like crazy. Finally, with his luck and ability, he successfully joined a cosmetics brand company with considerable assets. This company is not simple. Not only is it huge, but the president is also a beautiful woman with both good looks and ability. Although William has never spoken to her directly, every time he sees her by chance, he feels a little better, as if his work has become less boring. Life must go on. He patted his face with cold water, calmed down, and muttered to himself while looking at himself in the mirror. Although he learned about the existence of the rich man's biological mother yesterday, he still had no idea how to get along with her. After all, she was a completely unfamiliar mother. Moreover, his current life could not change the rhythm because of this sudden family affection. William took his wallet and mobile phone, had a simple breakfast, and rushed to the subway to go to work. The house he rented was in a good location, with convenient transportation and close to the company. In the subway car, William's 1.87-meter height stood out in the crowd. With his slender figure and handsome features, many people couldn't help but look at him a few more times. Especially his naturally handsome face, without any modification, but still showing distinct features and smooth skin like jade, even better than some models and skincare advertisements. Look, there's a handsome guy over there. A little girl in school uniform pulled her companion and whispered excitedly. Keep your voice down. It would be embarrassing if someone heard it. The companion next to her blushed and patted her gently, but her eyes couldn't help but secretly glance at William with a shy face. William raised his lips slightly, pretending he didn't hear anything, and stared at the reflection outside the car window calmly. He knew that his appearance was outstanding among ordinary people, and he always thought that he inherited his father's genes. But after meeting his wealthy mother, he suddenly found that his deep eyes that seemed to emit electricity seemed more like hers. And his thin and rosy lips were exactly the same as hers. When he just graduated, William had some evil thoughts. When he was beaten to a pulp by society, he even thought that he might as well find a rich woman to support him with his face, so that he wouldn't have to work so hard. But before he could put this shameful idea into practice, fate had already arranged everything for him. The rich woman did appear, but she was his biological mother. Life is so dramatic. William smiled bitterly, shook his head, and put these absurd thoughts behind him. The subway soon arrived at the company station. When he walked out of the station, he saw a magnificent building, the headquarters building of Jinxiu Trading Company, Ltd. This building is located in Lijiazui, Shanghai, where every inch of land is worth a lot of money. The fact that it owns a whole comprehensive office building here is enough to prove the strong strength of Jinxiu Trading. The company originated in Hong Kong and is one of the oldest cosmetics manufacturers in China. After acquisitions and continuous growth, Jinxiu Trading has become a large daily chemical group with annual sales of hundreds of billions of yuan. Its business covers beauty, personal care, maternal and child care, and other fields, and it is a leader in the industry. It was not easy for an ordinary young man who had just graduated from Fudan University to find a job in such a company. Although he could only start from the bottom, it was obviously a better choice compared to those small and medium-sized companies with limited development prospects. Chapter 11. William took a deep breath, shook the collar of his suit, straightened his back, and walked into the Jinxiu Trading building. It was rush hour, and the building entrance was bustling with people. Beautiful women in fashionable OL uniforms and elite men walking in a hurry. Everyone was full of vigor, as if the air was filled with the smell of competition. This atmosphere made William feel familiar and nervous. He walked straight to the elevator and pressed the button for the 8th floor skillfully. When the elevator door opened, the sweet receptionist smiled and greeted him. "Good morning, William. I heard that your supervisor changed jobs, and you have the highest academic qualifications in the group. The company is also going to launch a large-scale investment promotion activity recently. Maybe you have a chance to be promoted to supervisor. Sister Jia, please stop joking with me." William smiled and waved his hands, but he didn't take it seriously at all. "I've only been working for a few months, so it's not my turn anyway." The beatings from society had taught him a lesson. Don't rush to have hope for something that is uncertain, or you will be even more disappointed. He had long been accustomed to keeping a low profile and living a stable life. Back at his workstation, William turned on his computer and looked towards the window. It was a spacious and bright executive office with leather sofas, floor-to-ceiling windows, and coffee tables. Standing there, he could even overlook the entire streetscape of the Magic City. But now, the office was empty. Could the rumor be true? William muttered to himself. Normally, the supervisor was rarely late, and it was even more impossible for him to be absent for a day. It seemed that the job hopping was probably true. However, he quickly shook his head and put these thoughts behind him. There were many people eyeing the position of supervisor in the group. He was a newcomer with no background, no connections, and no desire to please his superiors, so he didn't even have to think about it. It was better to put away such unrealistic fantasies as soon as possible. He shook his head, calmed himself down, and began to concentrate on the work at hand. The surrounding workstations gradually became busier, and colleagues arrived at their posts one after another. Before long, I heard all kinds of discussions, almost all of which revolved around the supervisor's job change. I heard that Team Leader X went to the manager's office to flatter him. I'm afraid he's trying to get the supervisor position. "Oh, you are so shameless." Although everyone's tone was somewhat disdainful, William could tell that they were just unwilling to give up because they didn't have this opportunity. After all, the workplace is like a battlefield, and those who know how to handle things will naturally be favored by the leaders. William is aloof and arrogant, and has always been too lazy to do such things. But he does not look down on those who are good at tactics. After all, survival in the workplace depends on ability. Some people use ability, some rely on emotional intelligence. There is no right or wrong. Just as he lowered his head and was busy working, the discussions around him suddenly quieted down, and the entire office seemed to have pressed the pause button in an instant. William raised his head and glanced across the quiet workstation, and soon noticed a figure walking towards him from a distance. An office lady with long hair, a well-cut professional suit and high heels, and every step she took exuded competence and confidence. It's her, the personal secretary of the president of Jinshio Trading, Danier. The atmosphere in the entire office suddenly became subtle. Danier rarely appeared in ordinary departments. After all, her office was on the top floor, the 26th floor, and it almost only served the senior executives of the president. But now, she went directly to the 8th floor and walked straight in the direction of William. William was a little surprised and lowered his head to sort out the documents on the table. He didn't think she was looking for him, but out of courtesy, he adjusted his sitting position slightly when she approached. However, Danielle's sharp eyes fell on him. Under the curious gaze of her colleagues, she stopped beside his workstation with a professional smile on her lips. William? Chapter 12, The President Invites. Hello, William. Please put down your work and follow me upstairs for the meeting. Danielle's voice was gentle, but unquestionable, directly breaking the silence of the office. Me? William almost thought he had heard it wrong and looked up at her in surprise. The colleagues around him were also stunned, looking at him with complicated eyes. The secretary of the president of Jinshio Trading usually only appeared in the senior management. So why would he go to their department and personally ask William to attend the meeting? Danier looked at him with a professional smile on her face and explained softly. Boss Liu asked me to come. She is still waiting upstairs. Okay, I understand. William quickly stood up, straightened his clothes, and followed her towards the elevator. The eyes of his colleagues around him pierced his back like nails, making him feel a little pressured. Along the way, William's mind raced, thinking about the reason for this mission from heaven. He was just an ordinary employee, with no outstanding achievements and no background favored by the leader. So why did Mr. Liu look for him? Could it be that after learning about the news about the rich woman's biological mother yesterday, his mentality became inflated? Did he provoke someone he shouldn't have provoked? He couldn't help but smile bitterly, but quickly denied the idea. Not long after, the elevator arrived at the 26th floor. This was the top floor of Jinshio Commerce, an office area exclusively for senior management, and was usually completely isolated from the world of ordinary employees. Danielle knocked on the door of the president's office, pushed it open, and walked in. William followed her silently, stepping into this legendary president's territory for the first time. The office is decorated in a simple yet luxurious way. The leather sofas in the reception area are neatly arranged, and there are several famous paintings on the wall, full of modern art. Behind the desk sits a woman who is so beautiful that one cannot take their eyes off her. Fiona, the beautiful CEO of Jinshio Trading. She was probably in her 30s, wearing a well-cut business suit, elegant and generous, with a mature and charming look on her face. Her slightly curly long hair hung on her shoulders, making her look capable and charming. Her thin red lips were slightly raised, revealing an indescribable charm. Sitting opposite her was William's department manager, Diana, a middle-aged woman who was usually very kind to him. William is here, come, sit down and talk. Diana stood you. P and patted his shoulder with a gentle smile on her face. William nodded and said politely to Fiona, hello, Mr. Liu. Then he sat down on another chair. Fiona flipped through a document on the table, looked up at William, and raised a meaningful smile. William, right? I saw your employment information. Did you graduate from Fudan University? Yes, I just graduated this year. William pretended to be calm and tried to speak in a calm tone. Fiona looked up at him for a while, as if she was sizing him up or evaluating him. Then, she suddenly smiled and said softly, don't be nervous. I'm just asking casually. By the way, I also graduated from Fudan University, so I'm your senior. As soon as she finished speaking, the originally delicate atmosphere suddenly relaxed a little. William saw her half-smiley expression, and his nervousness dissipated a lot, revealing a hint of a smile. Hello, senior sister. Diana laughed out loud when she heard this. William is really quick to react. President Liu likes people to praise her for her youth. Oh, what about you? Don't like it? Fiona glanced at Diana, her tone full of teasing and laughter. It was obvious that the two of them had a very harmonious relationship in private. Chapter 13. Okay, I also like being called sister by handsome boys. Diana smiled with her hands covering her mouth, her tone full of teasing. Fiona glanced at her helplessly, then put down the documents in her hand, tapped the table lightly, and retracted some of her smile. Okay, let's talk about business first. Diana also put away her smile and looked at William. Her tone softened. William, you have been in the company for 5 months. How do you feel? William smiled and thought for a moment before answering. The company is very strong and has a good working atmosphere. Although there are some minor problems, this is normal. In fact, if a company has no problems at all, it is more dangerous. This shows that most people choose to remain silent, which may lead to deceiving superiors and subordinates and falsifying information. On the contrary, the existence of some problems is a good thing, which shows that everyone is still working hard for the company's progress. His words made Fiona's eyes flash with surprise. She raised the corners of her mouth slightly, showing some approval. I didn't expect you to have such insights on management. This makes me feel more at ease. William's heart moved, and he vaguely felt that something good was about to happen, but he still pretended to be puzzled. Boss Lou, what do you mean by this? Fiona smiled, and the charm between her eyebrows softened the atmosphere in the entire office. It's like this. Yesterday, the head of your department resigned for personal reasons, and our company will hold a large-scale investment promotion event next week. It is unrealistic to recruit new people in such a short time, so I decided to promote someone from within the department to take up this position. Manager Gao recommended you to me, and I read your performance report, and your performance is indeed good. If you have no objection, after this conversation, you will officially take over the position of head of the investment promotion department. William remained calm on the surface when he heard this, but his heart was already in turmoil. He hesitated for a moment and said, if Mr. Liu and Manager Gao trust me, I am certainly willing to accept this challenge. However, he paused and pretended to be hesitant before adding, I am only an investment promotion specialist now. Is it too fast to be promoted to a supervisor? Fiona shook her head, her tone calm and composed. Private companies don't follow conventional procedures. We only look at your ability. If you are capable enough, you can secure your position as a supervisor. If you don't do well, we will naturally make adjustments. Can you accept this? William smiled confidently when he heard this. No problem. I'm already very satisfied to have such an opportunity for me to try. Since the company trusts me, I will definitely do my best. Some opportunities do come unexpectedly, but facing these opportunities, some people will hesitate and be timid, fearing that they will not do well, while others choose to face the challenges head-on and prove themselves with actions and achievements. William is obviously the latter, and he is never a person who gives up easily. Regardless of success or failure, he believes that he should at least give it a try, otherwise he will never be able to surpass the status quo. Fiona nodded. A charming smile appeared on her face, and she was obviously very satisfied with William's attitude. Then it's decided. Manager Gao will help you with the handover. I will issue an internal announcement in the company later to officially inform you of your promotion to the head of investment promotion. If you encounter problems that you can't solve, you can always ask Manager Gao for advice. If it really doesn't work, you can also come to me directly. William sat up straight and said seriously, okay, thank you Mr. Liu for giving me this opportunity, and thank you Mr. Gao for the recommendation. I will do my best to do the following work. If I can't do it well, I will resign on my own initiative and will not let everyone down. Fiona nodded with satisfaction, with a little more appreciation in her eyes. Okay, that's all for today. You can go back to your work, and feel free to contact me if you need anything. Diana took William to leave, but William's mood did not calm down. He felt his blood boiling, and this sudden opportunity caught him off guard. But more of it was excitement and fighting spirit. Chapter 14 yang li-APRs. William followed Diana out of the president's office. After taking a few steps, he couldn't help but take a deep breath, trying to calm his slightly disordered heartbeat. How is it? Are you feeling stressed? Diana smiled and patted his shoulder, her tone teasing. Young people, you have to be bolder. This is all about life experience. Sister Chin, thank you so much. William's tone was full of gratitude. He knew that if it weren't for Diana's recommendation, he, an ordinary investment promotion specialist, would never have been noticed by Fiona, let alone have the opportunity to be promoted. Diana waved her hands and smiled cheerfully. All right, stop thanking me and come back with me to hand over the work. Remember, if you mess up, I, as your recommender, can't afford to lose face. William smiled, stopped being pretentious, and followed her back to the department's office floor. When Diana announced to the department the news that William was promoted to investment director, the entire office fell into silence for a moment. Everyone's expression was as if they had seen a ghost, with their eyes wide open. They obviously didn't expect that this newcomer who had just joined the company for less than half a year could be promoted to the position of supervisor so quickly. Soon, whispers began to spread in the corner. Some people speculated that William might have a strong background. Otherwise, how could he be promoted so ridiculously? Others felt that the company had thrown this big problem to him. After all, the supervisor was about to change jobs, and the investment promotion activities were imminent, and this job was too difficult and was simply a hot potato. No matter what the truth was, everyone knew it. No matter if William was a scapegoat or a hidden big shot, he was now his direct supervisor. So, although envy and suspicion surged in their hearts, everyone still applauded and congratulated him with complicated smiles on their faces. William had expected these looks, but he was too lazy to pay attention. He knew he had to get into the role right away. The company's internal announcement had been released, and he had officially moved into the supervisor's office, handing over the previous supervisor's work to Diana. The tasks ahead are piling up. The large-scale investment promotion event next week is complex and includes a comprehensive promotion plan for the new brand series of products and a detailed market feedback plan, all of which William needs to be familiar with one by one. He buried his head in the office, looking through the materials, concentrating on studying every content, and spent a lot of time memorizing the product details. He knew that in the investment promotion activities, he must show enough professionalism when facing customers' questions. Otherwise, even the basic trust will be lost. Surprisingly, this seemingly tedious work did not take much time for him. Since childhood, William found that he had an amazing memory, almost to the point of photographic memory. Therefore, he could quickly memorize every detail and easily grasp the core content. Diana occasionally passed by his office and nodded secretly when she saw William's focused look. She had felt that this young man was a good candidate during the interview, and now he really did not disappoint her. At the same time, a tea party was taking place in the reception area of the president's office on the 26th floor. Yang Li and Susan sat elegantly on the luxurious sofa, holding exquisite teacups in their hands, sipping tea calmly. Fiona, the beautiful CEO of Jinxiu Company, personally served them and poured tea for them. Chapter 15. The moon in the sky can be picked. Yang Li, I never thought that your son actually works in our Jinxiu and has been promoted to investment director. Fiona picked up the teacup and looked at Yang Li with interest, a faint smile appearing on her mature face. Well, that's good. Are you sure he didn't notice the reason behind it? Yang Li took a sip of tea lightly, her words revealing a hint of caution in her graceful and dignified posture. Fiona put down her teacup and said firmly, absolutely not. All the information released by Jinxiu to the outside world has nothing to do with the Snow Mountain Group, except for those of us who know about it. No one knows that you were the major shareholder of Jinxiu Commerce. It turned out that Jinxiu Business had long been Yang Li's personal investment project, and Fiona had been her good friend for many years. This also made William's unexpected promotion not so surprising. It was almost impossible for an ordinary worker to seize such an opportunity. Yang Li nodded with satisfaction, her tone gentle but dignified. That's fine. Yang will stay with you for the time being. Take good care of him for me. If anyone dares to bully my son and makes him suffer injustice, I will come to you personally to settle the score. Fiona promised with a smile. Yang Li, don't worry. Even if your son turns the company upside down, I will never let him suffer any injustice. Speaking of which, I held him in my arms back then, so I am half an ant. Yang Li waved her hand, her smile showing some doting. It's just a Jinxiu. If he wants to play, let him play. If something really happens, the worst that can happen is to destroy it and build another one, as long as he is happy. Susan, who was standing by, was so shocked that her eyes twitched. She smiled and sighed. Aunt you are too doting on the young master. This is a large company with assets worth tens of billions, and you just let him mess around? What are tens of billions? Yang Li's expression remained calm, and she smiled very gently. He is my son. If he wants the moon in the sky, I have to find a way to pick it for him. At noon, the free lunch provided by the company cafeteria made most employees choose to stay in the building to eat. William also sat in a corner with his meal tray. Before he started eating, people kept coming up to him and saying hello. Manager Sue, congratulations on your promotion. He smiled slightly and nodded in response to the repeated congratulations. He had never dared to think of such treatment before. When he was an ordinary investment promotion specialist, no one would even look at him, let alone take the initiative to greet him. But now his status is different. Even those colleagues who had no intersection with him before have begun to take the initiative to talk to him. This is what they call when one person succeeds, the whole family benefits. William smiled secretly in his heart and was not surprised. After all, socializing between ordinary people is more inclined to exchange interests. If you have no skills and no value, no one will waste time to establish so-called ineffective socializing with you. But when you have status and resources, these interpersonal relationships will naturally move closer. After finishing his meal, William took a short break and returned to his office to study the information about the investment promotion conference. He knew that he was going to work in Jinshio for a while. Whether it was to accumulate experience or expand his network, this platform could provide a huge boost. Moreover, the position of investment director not only had a certain say, but also had extremely generous commissions. For every store that all the groups in the department negotiated, he could get a certain percentage of the revenue, and there was no cap on the commission. However, as a former ordinary investment promotion specialist, William also knows the difficulty of these achievements. Negotiating the development of a new store is by no means easy. Sometimes it is a rare achievement to close a deal in a month. Chapter 16, Susan Visits. William finished a busy day and took a hot bath at home to relax himself. He stood in front of the mirror, wiping his wet hair, and was about to change his clothes and go out for dinner when his cell phone rang. He glanced at the screen, smiled slightly when he saw the caller ID, and picked up the phone. "Hello, Sister Susan? What's up? Are you not at home? I knocked on your door for a long time, but no one opened it." Susan's slightly coquettish voice came from the other end of the phone, with her usual laziness and tenderness. William didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He continued to wipe his hair and said, "What are you doing here again? I just finished taking a shower. How could I hear the knock on the door? I'm your sister Susan. What's wrong with coming to see you?" Susan said confidently. Okay, wait. I'll come out and open the door." William hung up the phone, put on a bathrobe, walked out, and opened the door. Susan, standing outside the door, was dressed in an exquisite outfit, which made him stunned for a moment. She was wearing a Dior lady's suit with a pink lining and a floral skirt. Her slender legs were wrapped in thin black stockings, and her high heels made her look even more charming without losing her aura. "Why? Are you stunned when you see your sister?" Susan looked him up and down, her eyes stopped on his loose bathrobe, and she couldn't help but teasing. "You're really taking a bath? I thought you were deliberately not willing to open the door." "You're not a tiger. Why shouldn't I open the door for you?" William waved his hand and stepped aside to let her in. He asked casually, "You're dressed like this, you didn't just get off work, did you?" "Yes, what else? You come to see our young master the first thing you do after work." "How thoughtful." Susan walked into the living room in high heels, turned around and blinked at him, looking as comfortable as if she were at home. William smiled helplessly, poured a glass of water, and handed it to her. "Why did you come here today? You can't really just come to take a look, right?" Susan took the water, took a sip, and gently brushed her chestnut curly hair. She smiled and said, "I missed you. I came to see you specially. Is that not okay?" William rolled his eyes at her and said, "Sister Susan, can you be more exaggerated? It's so fake that even you believe it. Oh, master, you look so handsome when you roll your eyes. I love it." Susan pretended to be a fangirl and held her face, which made William roll his eyes. "Okay, sit anywhere you want. I'll go change my clothes." After saying that, he went into the bedroom without looking back. However, not long after, the door was pushed open. Hey, why are you coming in?" William subconsciously grabbed a piece of clothing to cover himself and quickly stepped back. Susan leaned against the door frame and saw that he was only wearing a pair of shorts, revealing his smooth and firm upper body. She immediately giggled. "I was so bored outside alone, so I came in to take a look. Come, little master, let your sister help you get dressed." "No need. I can do it myself." William's tone was a little flustered, and he kept backing away. "How can I not use it?" Susan said as she reached out to grab the clothes in his hand, her tone full of ridicule. "You are our young master. It's only fitting that you should have everything you want." William was pressed step by step by her, and finally retreated to the corner with nowhere to hide. He could only watch Susan take the clothes from his hands and then put them on his head skillfully. The two were so close that William could almost smell her light perfume mixed with her delicate body fragrance. When Susan's slender and soft hands touched his skin inadvertently, he felt a cool touch that made him feel a little dazed. "Why are you still standing there?" Susan gently pulled the hem of his clothes and tidied them for him. She looked up at him with a sly smile on her lips. "How is it? Do you feel that your life has reached its peak when a beautiful woman helps you get dressed?" William whispered helplessly. "Sister, can you be more normal?" Susan blinked and said with a half smile, "Normal? I don't want to be normal with you." William was completely defeated and secretly sighed in his heart. This woman is really his nemesis. Chapter 17, Transformation of Life. William's heartbeat began to speed up uncontrollably, and even his ears felt hot. After a lot of effort, Susan helped him put on his t-shirt, but she was in no hurry to leave. She raised her hand and patted his chest, teasing, "Wow, you look skinny, but I didn't expect you to be quite muscular." Ahem. William was embarrassed by what she said. "Shouldn't you go out and wait? I could take care of the pants myself." He was really worried that this woman would go a step further and not only help him put on his pants, but he really couldn't bear the scene. Susan blinked and raised a meaningful smile. "Okay, then hug me and I'll go out." "Ah!" William widened his eyes. Was this request too much? "Why, you don't dare?" Susan raised her head slightly, her eyes locked on him, and a seductive smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. She was wearing high heels, and her height just reached the tip of William's nose. The close distance allowed William to clearly feel her warm breath gently on his chin, and his heart suddenly itched. William took a deep breath, made up his mind, and suddenly reached out to embrace the beauty in front of him. This was the first time in his life that he had hugged a woman so closely. The touch of her warmth and softness instantly made him feel a little overwhelmed. Susan's waist was soft as if it had no bones, and her skin was smooth as silk. She leaned against his chest and smiled softly. I didn't expect that the young master is quite brave." Susan's cheeks were lightly flushed, but her words were still unforgiving, and there was a hint of shyness in her tone. William felt his face burning like a stove. He quickly let go of her and took a step back awkwardly. "Sister Susan, are you satisfied now?" "You've passed," Susan said with a hint of pride. She glanced at William subconsciously, then turned and walked towards the door, leaving a witty remark. "Don't let me down next time." William quickly closed the door, locked it, and leaned against the door panel to let out a long breath. It's not that he didn't feel anything, but he really didn't dare to cross the line. Susan was not an ordinary girl. She was a trusted assistant trained by her mother. Joking aside, he couldn't really treat her casually. Moreover, his current identity changed too quickly, making it difficult for him to fully adapt. More than 20 years of ordinary life had already left a deep mark in his heart, and he always subconsciously restrained some emotions and actions. 10 minutes later, William changed his clothes and walked out of the room. His expression had returned to calm. Susan was lazily lying on the sofa. When she saw him coming out, she immediately stood up and took his arm, smiling with her eyebrows curved. "Let's go, your time tonight belongs to me." "Where are you going?" William glanced down at her soft hand on his arm and couldn't help feeling curious. "Date." Susan smiled slyly and pulled him out the door. William got downstairs. He saw a black Rolls-Royce Phantom parked on the side of the road. Susan opened the door gracefully and pushed him in. "Drive," she ordered Xiaoqing, who was sitting in the driver's seat. "Okay, Mr. Jiang." Xiaoqing answered crisply and started the car. William recognized the driver as the girl who delivered dinner yesterday. She was still wearing a smart women's suit today, looking elegant and a little cold. He couldn't help asking, "Where are we going?" Susan turned her face to the side, supported her chin with one hand, and raised a mysterious smile. "You will know in a moment." William stopped asking and turned his attention to the interior of the car. It was the first time in his life that he sat in such a luxury car, and his eyes could not help but scan the interior. The leather sofa in the car is soft and comfortable, and the space is so spacious that people want to lie down directly. William leaned gently on the seat, feeling the high-end configuration of the Rolls-Royce, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Sure enough, people from different classes even feel different when sitting in the car. Susan looked at him intently, looking inside the car, and couldn't help but chuckle. "Young master, you can ride in this luxury car as many times as you want in the future. You just need to get used to it slowly." Chapter 18. Touching the young master's heart. "Aang, what did you do today? Did you sleep at home all day?" Susan asked with pretended curiosity, with a hint of teasing in her watery eyes, while tucking a strand of curly hair behind her ear. "Do you think I'm a pig? I can sleep all day." William rolled his eyes at her helplessly, but he was in a good mood and couldn't help sharing his joy. I went to work today. Have you heard of Jinshio Trading? Jinshio? Is it the company that ranks among the top in the national cosmetics industry? Susan raised her eyebrows and pretended to be surprised. That's right. Our department manager changed jobs recently, and a position happened to be vacant, so the company directly promoted me. William smiled confidently, with a hint of pride in his words. Is this true? You just graduated. What ability do you have to make others think so highly of you? Susan deliberately showed a skeptical expression, as if she didn't quite believe in his luck. William was a little unconvinced when he heard this. How can you talk like that? Can't I stand out by my strength and potential? I just lack a platform to perform. Wait and see. I will definitely achieve results. Yes, yes. Our young master is the best. Susan smiled brightly, with a bit of doting in her eyes, and then said seriously, Jinshio is indeed a good company. This opportunity is rare. If you study hard, you may be able to reach a higher level in the future. William nodded, his mood relaxed with a relaxed smile on his face. I think it's rare too. Since there is a happy event today, we must celebrate. Come on, I'll take you to eat something delicious. Susan smiled and stretched out her arms. Her chestnut curly hair was gently blown by the night breeze blowing in from the car window. She looked charming and full of energy. William felt a warm current in his heart as he looked at her. At this moment, he felt that Susan was not only beautiful, but also reassuring. For him, this kind of company was a luxury. He thought of the lonely days in the rental house in the past, going to work, eating, and sleeping day after day, as if life was swallowed up by endless loneliness and silence. Although adults say that they should learn to endure loneliness, if there is someone who can laugh with you and share your joys and sorrows, that is definitely the happiest thing. The wind from the car window lifted a strand of Susan's hair and swept it across her face. William subconsciously reached out and gently twisted the strand of hair for her and tucked it behind her crystal ear. Susan was slightly stunned. A hint of surprise flashed in her eyes, and then a sly smile appeared on her lips. Ayang, are you in love with me? Her words stunned William for a moment. Then his cheeks flushed and he spoke incoherently. Don't think too much. I just treat you as a friend. Oh, are we really just friends? Susan looked at him with a smile, her eyes full of teasing. William didn't respond. He simply shrugged and turned to look out the window, pretending he didn't hear anything. Fortunately, the car stopped at this time. Are we there yet? William looked out the window and saw a magnificent building standing before him. This is a high-end hotel called Wangjiang Pavilion, located in the most prosperous area of the Bund. Through the window, William can clearly see the gorgeous night view on both sides of the Huangpu River. Yes, get out of the car. Susan smiled, opened the car door, twisted her waist, and pushed him. William got out of the car, looked up at the brightly lit hotel, and couldn't help asking, Isn't this very expensive? Of course he had heard of this restaurant, which was said to be one of the most famous high-end restaurants in the Magic City. Apart from anything else, the per capita consumption of each dish alone was enough to discourage ordinary people. Chapter 19 High Heels, Touching the Starry Sky. Why is it so expensive? This restaurant is owned by your mother. Just sign the bill. They won't charge us. Susan took his arm and smiled, as if it was a matter of course. That's great. It's a waste if you don't eat it. William didn't act pretentiously and walked in. Although this was Yang Lie's property, he still didn't have much sense of belonging to this newly recognized rich mother. And in his eyes, this meal was just a free meal. Hey, slow down. I'm wearing high heels. Susan hurried after him in her high heels and held onto his arm. William turned his head and saw her cautious look and couldn't help laughing. Are these shoes really comfortable for you girls? You have to walk so hard in high heels just to look good? William glanced down at the shoes on her feet with amusement. They were a pair of iconic black Saint Laurent high heels, and the shape of the heels looked like they were made for fashion magazines, not designed for walking. Comfort is not important. Good looks are the most important thing. Susan pursed her red lips coquettishly, looking smug. Besides, do you think the top-notch Saint Laurent high heels will touch the dust on the ground? William raised his eyebrows. What do you mean? Don't you guys walk on the road? Susan blinked and covered her mouth with a smile, because they only touched the top of the starry sky. Starry sky top? William frowned. What weird thing are you talking about? Susan looked at him jokingly. It's the roof of the Rolls-Royce you just sat in. There are dots of light on it. Didn't you notice it? William suddenly realized and almost burst out laughing. Are you trying to mock me for being ignorant? He stretched out his hand and gently pinched Susan's face. "If you do this again, do you believe I will throw you out now?" "Hey, don't be so fierce," Susan giggled, her voice so soft that it seemed like water could drip out, and she looked at him mischievously. William shook his head helplessly, took her hand, and walked slowly towards Wangjiang Pavilion. The decoration of this hotel is indeed luxurious. As soon as you enter the door, you will see the light and shadow of the crystal chandelier. The smooth marble floor reflects the bright lights. Every detail shows exquisiteness and luxury, making people feel as if they are in a top banquet scene in a TV series. "Mr. Jiang, you are here. The VIP lounge is ready for you. Please follow me." Before the two of them had completely entered the hall, a professional woman in uniform came up to them with a respectful attitude and a tone full of respect. William looked down at her name tag and saw that she was actually the restaurant manager. This treatment made him secretly complain. "This is indeed the territory of one of our own people. This is not the reception style of an ordinary restaurant. It is completely the style of a boss coming to his own territory." However, just as he followed the manager through the hall, William suddenly heard someone calling his name from behind. "Hey, isn't this William?" William looked back and frowned instantly. The person who called him was Zheng Tao, the vice president of the student union in college, a typical rich second generation, and it was said that his family had more than 10 billion assets in Shanghai. Although he hadn't seen him for several years, William didn't have a good impression of this person. The grudge between them was still vivid in my mind. It was an intramural basketball game, and Zheng Tao's team was facing off against William's team. During the game, William made a beautiful block that made Zheng Tao's shot a joke. As a result, this guy got angry and cursed Chow Nima on the spot. William hated people swearing since he was a child, let alone swearing at him. He grabbed the basketball without hesitation and smashed it hard at Zheng Tao's head, causing an uproar in the room. Chapter 20. Enemies meet on a narrow road. If the teammates on both sides hadn't tried their best to stop them, the fight would have already started. Since then, the two of them have become sworn enemies. What's worse, even William's part-time job at the library was ruined by Zheng Tao. What a narrow road for enemies. He cursed in a low voice, the suppressed anger in his heart difficult to calm down. Susan, who was standing by, originally thought that he had met an old friend, but after hearing these words, she understood the relationship between the two parties and her eyes suddenly turned colder. Zheng Tao was just surprised at first, wondering how he could run into William here, but soon his eyes were firmly attracted by Susan beside William. A look of amazement flashed in his eyes. This woman completely crushed the new internet celebrity he had just met in terms of temperament, figure, and appearance. "Hey, William, who is this beauty? Introduce her to me?" Zheng Tao pulled his cone-faced female companion, smiled flatteringly, and came over with a familiar look. William glanced at him coldly, his tone cold. "It's none of your business. Get out of here." Zheng Tao's face froze for a moment. He suppressed his anger and thought that he couldn't lose face in front of the beauty. So he walked past William and showed Susan what he thought was the most charming smile. "Beauty, let's meet. I'm the son of Longwei Group. How about making friends?" Before she finished speaking, William had already stood in front of Susan and shouted coldly, "I'm warning you, don't blame me for being rude if you don't get out of here." Zheng Tao's face turned pale. He had been praised since he was a child. When had he ever been treated like this? He pointed at William and gritted his teeth and cursed. "Who do you think you are? Back in school, I didn't punish you for the sake of the school. Now that you're out of school, who do you really think will protect you? In a word, I can make sure you can't survive in the Magic City." William's eyes flashed coldly when he heard this. He didn't want to cause trouble for Susan, but he couldn't stand it anymore. He rolled up his sleeves and prepared to take action. Just when the atmosphere was tense. Bah! With a crisp sound, a bottle of red wine suddenly exploded on Zheng Tao's head. Glass fragments mixed with red wine and blood flowed down his cheek. Zheng Tao screamed, her face full of fear. The guests who were dining around him stopped what they were doing, and their eyes were all drawn to him. William was stunned, then turned to look at Susan in disbelief. I saw her holding a broken wine bottle in her hand, and her face was as cold as if she was a different person. "Who do you think you are in front of me?" Susan's voice was not loud, but it was oppressive. "Aying is my young master. Anyone who dares to bully him will pay the price." William was surprised and a little amused. He didn't expect that Susan, who was usually gentle and lovely, could be so domineering at this moment. Zheng Tao was stunned by the blow. Then he came to his senses and cursed with gnashing teeth. I'm Chow and I. Ma? There was another sound of glass breaking. This time, it was William who personally hit Jung Tao on the head with the red wine bottle. He looked at him coldly, his tone even harsher than before. Say it again? I didn't beat you up in school before because I was giving the school some face. Who do you think you are after you leave school? William's words were powerful, returning all the new and old grudges. Jung Tao was finally provoked to the point of losing his mind and rushed towards William with a roar. I see you. Before he could finish his words, he was kicked by William and fell heavily to the ground, his face wrinkled in pain. Susan seemed still unsatisfied, so she reached out and grabbed a bottle of red wine and was about to rush over to make up for it. William quickly stopped her, took the bottle from her, and said softly, "Let me do this. Chapter 21, your mother can help you with it." Bah! Along with the crisp sound of breaking glass, Jung Tao's head was hit by 3 bottles of red wine in succession. Blood mixed with red wine dripped down. He was stunned and his head was blurry and in a mess. As he stood up, he shouted viciously, "Where's the boss? Where's the boss of Wangjiang Pavilion? Come out quickly, someone is causing trouble here." Although he felt dizzy, he didn't think he would lose. After all, the background of Wangjiang Pavilion deterred countless people, and no one dared to act wildly here. The only thing he could do now was to use the power of Wangjiang Pavilion to turn the tables. Just as he finished shouting, the uniformed woman who had been standing next to Susan, ready to protect her at any time, suddenly stepped forward and said lightly, "Mr. Zheng, this is the owner of Wangjiang Pavilion." Jung Tao was stunned when he heard this. The next second, his mind seemed to be struck by a thunderbolt, and he suddenly remembered a rumor. The richest woman in Shanghai, Yang Li, adopted a girl named Susan. It was said that this girl was beautiful and had an unparalleled temperament, and was called the flower of Shanghai. Although his circle was not qualified to see such a legendary figure, the woman in front of him was not the Susan in the rumor. After realizing this, Jung Tao felt cold sweat on his back, his lips trembled, and he couldn't utter a word. Susan looked at him with disgust in her eyes and said coldly, "Throw him out." The female manager next to her nodded quickly. "Yes, President Jiang." She waved her hand, and several security guards quickly stepped forward and mercilessly carried Jung Tao, along with his trembling internet celebrity female companion, out the door. With a dull thud, Jung Tao fell heavily to the ground, and his female companion followed him in a panic. All the customers in the hall stopped what they were doing and watched the scene quietly. Although no one dared to intervene, they were all secretly amazed at what had just happened. That woman was so decisive, and her aura was so strong. Who was the man next to her? At this time, Susan smiled slightly, handed William a hot towel, and said softly, "Aang, wipe your hands. Don't let this kind of person ruin your mood." He took the towel, wiped the traces of red wine on his hands, looked up at Susan, and couldn't help laughing. "Sister Susan, I really didn't expect you to be so powerful. Even fighting is so powerful." Susan heard this. Her pretty face turned slightly red, and she turned sideways stubbornly. "No, I don't fight." William was amused by her shy appearance, took her hand, and stood up. "Let's go. Let's continue eating. Don't let a fly spoil the mood." "Yeah." Susan nodded slightly, with a faint smile on her face, and walked towards the VIP room with her arm around his. In the VIP lounge, as soon as the two sat down, the dishes were served one after another, and the warm atmosphere returned to them. William looked at the food on the table, frowned slightly, and couldn't help but ask, "Sister Susan, what happened just now won't cause you any trouble, right?" Although he was impulsive, he still had a sense of propriety. In the adult world, things would never end just because of a fight. Susan chuckled when she heard this, her eyes full of smiles. You worry too much. You should know that in this land of Magic City, there is nothing you need to endure. Your mother's power is far beyond your imagination. Remember one thing, as long as you want, no one dares to bully you." William felt relieved and shook his head with a smile. "Since you said so, Sister Susan, I am relieved." Although he still had no idea about his biological mother whom he had never met, since even Susan was so sure, he felt that he didn't need to delve into it further. "Okay, let's eat and stop thinking about those unpleasant things," Susan said softly, then picked up a piece of meat for him and smiled as gentle as water. Chapter 22, The World is Your Enemy. "Aang, how did that guy offend you? I saw you were very impatient with him as soon as you saw him." Susan asked curiously, blinking her beautiful eyes. William smiled indifferently and told her how he and Zheng Tao had a grudge. After he finished speaking, he casually said, "It's over, let it go." Anyway, it was quite satisfying to fight off the old and new grudges just now. "Young master, you can just not bother to care. But we won't just let it go. Don't even mention that she can't stand it. Your mother will get mad too." Susan gritted her teeth secretly, but on the surface, she lifted the bouncing hair beside her ear and nodded with a smile. "Yeah, he is just a scumbag, don't bother with him." Not long after, the dishes Susan ordered were served one after another. Deep-sea scallops, turbot, roasted pigeon, stewed sea cucumber with sakura shrimp, silver cod, lobster risotto, abalone crisps, and smoked salmon. Every dish here is a signature dish. They look delicious and taste fresh and tasty. William was so full of grease that he kept praising, "The food in this restaurant is really good. Eat slowly. No one is going to snatch the food from you." Susan quickly took the napkin and used her snow-white fingertips to wipe his mouth. At the same time, on the other side at the Shirmao Shishan Manor in Shanghai, Yangli has received a call from Xiaoqing reporting to her. After hanging up the phone, Yangli's expression was very serious, and a cold aura permeated her whole body. She made a direct call. "Immediately seal off all of Longway Industrial's projects and contact the bank to cut off all their loans and collect debts. I want Longway Industrial to go bankrupt within 3 days." A hint of coldness flashed across Yang Li's noble phoenix eyes, and she gave orders into the phone without allowing any disobedience. "No problem, leave it to me." The person on the other end didn't ask any questions, just agreed and hung up the phone. For companies like Longway Industrial Group that involve physical entities and real estate, all of them have alarming debt ratios. They relied on the physical properties and land under their names to obtain bank loans as collateral to advance the establishment of preliminary projects. Then they brag and promote the project to investors and buyers, obtain advance payments in advance, and then carry out the later construction of the project. After that, they continue to mortgage the project to bank loans, constantly making money out of nothing. This method is very common in the physical industry and can easily leverage more than 3 times the cost of funds. As long as you complete a set of processes, you can easily earn huge profits at low cost. However, in order for the project to proceed smoothly, every link needs to be managed to ensure smooth progress. Therefore, almost all entities have no operations that are not in violation of regulations. As long as someone investigates, a lot of problems will be found. If any link is broken, the company will be on the verge of bankruptcy. Yangli was really angry this time. William is her sweetheart. She herself wanted to hold the child in her hands and pamper him. Someone actually dared to bully him this time. Isn't this courting death? The eyes of the queen of Magic City, whose face was as cold as frost, would only become tender when she glanced at the framed photo of her son on the bedside table. 21 years later, the mother and son were reunited again. She already blamed herself for not being with her son during this most important growth period of his life. Therefore, she naturally could not tolerate anyone who dared to bring bad luck to her beloved baby. "No one can bully my son. If you are the enemy of the world, then I will be the enemy of the world." Chapter 23 Drama Queen Susan. 10 o'clock in the evening, William and Susan strolled along the bank of the Huangpu River. "Aying, please help me watch behind me. Don't let me bump into anyone." Susan turned over and walked backwards in front of William. Her pretty face looked very beautiful under the streetlight. William looked at her with a smile and said, "You are not afraid of falling, and you don't even walk properly." Susan put her hands behind her back, holding her bag, and stepped back with her beautiful black stockings and Saint Laurent high heels. She smiled and said, "I'm walking with my back to the wind. If the evening breeze blows over me and then blows on you, isn't it the same as us hugging each other?" William exaggeratedly took a deep breath and said with a smile, "This wind really carries your scent." Susan almost laughed out loud, looking at William's deep and sharp eyes. The evening breeze blew her hair around her face. She giggled, "Does it smell good?" "It smells good." William smiled and said, "It smells like seafood. I like the smell of the sea." "Bah! The smell of seafood comes from the river, and I only smell the fragrance." Susan spat lightly and rolled her eyes at him coquettishly. William laughed and suddenly saw that her high heels accidentally stepped on the gap between the floor tiles. "Careful." "Ah!" Susan's Saint Laurent stiletto heel got stuck on it, and her steps became disordered and she fell to the side. William took a step forward, put his arms around her waist, and held Susan's plump and soft body tightly in his arms. Luckily, you're here. Susan lowered her head to tidy up her messy hair, with a cunning look in her eyes as she pretended to be embarrassed to look up at him. You did it on purpose, didn't you? William said with a smile. Why did he feel that this routine was a bit like that in idol dramas? No way. I couldn't see the road conditions behind me, and you didn't remind me. Susan punched him in the chest with her little fist. Stand still. I'll help you pull your heel out. William didn't bother with her. He let her stand still and then bent down. Oh, Susan held William's shoulders, a look of triumph and playfulness dancing across her face. At this time, William had already reached out and grasped her exquisite Saint Laurent high heels. Susan's feet should be very small, about size 36, and can be held in the hand. Her instep wrapped in black stockings was revealed on the upper of the black high-heeled shoe with a red sole, and it felt delicate and soft. William couldn't help but feel his heart pounding. He quickly cleared his mind, put his hands through the soles of his shoes, grasped the instep, and pulled upwards with force. Finally, he pulled the stuck heel out. I told you before that your high heels are not durable. You see, my flat shoes are more practical and feel like walking on flat ground. William stood up and said, Don't you think Gaga is pretty? Susan giggled and made a face at him. Yes, it looks so good. I'm just afraid the lettered high heels will rub my shoulders. William was so happy that he teased her. Little rascal. Susan glanced at him charmingly, moved her feet, and suddenly frowned. I think my foot is sprained. No way. William looked skeptical. Really? Susan looked at him pitifully. What should we do then? William asked helplessly. Susan's eyes rolled around, and she giggled. Carry me back. I really owe you. William rolled his eyes in annoyance and bent down in front of Susan again with his back to her. Chapter 24, Returning to the Palace. A little lower. I'm wearing a skirt. Susan was wearing a Dior ladies' knee-length skirt, and she couldn't spread her legs too wide. Otherwise, she would be exposed. William naturally knew this and could only continue squatting. Susan then chuckled, hugged his neck, and kissed him on the ear and clamped her legs around his waist. Son William, you can go back to the palace now. Go away and call the king. William patted her leather drum and stood up with her soft body on his back. Oh, your majesty is so fierce. I'm scared. Susan lay on his shoulder with a smile and quietly made a victory gesture. You just want me to fuck you. William held up her two black silk legs and walked towards a Rolls-Royce parked in front. I find that you are quite manly sometimes. Susan said cutely, with a bright smile on her face. Don't tease me. My heart is as hard as a roadside stone, and it has been sealed with cement long ago. William complained. Susan laughed heartlessly. Have you ever been hurt by love? No, the older I get, the more I feel that love is fake. William said, as if he had seen through the world. Nonsense, how old are you? Your sister Susan, am 4 years older than you, and I still believe in love. Susan's delicate little hand gently pulled his ear. William twisted his neck and said, Let me tell you a story. I had a college classmate who pursued a girl for 2 years. One rainy night, the girl posted on WeChat Moments saying that she wanted to drink yogurt. My classmate saw it and ran to buy yogurt and sent it to the downstairs of her dormitory, asking her to come down and get it. Do you know what happened later? Susan was intrigued and asked curiously, What happened? William continued, thinking carefully about his words. Later, the girl replied to him and said that her roommates were playing Truth or Dare, and she lost. Then her roommate asked her to post a message on WeChat Moments that was only visible to my classmates, to see if he would come. Unexpectedly, he actually came, and the girls in her dormitory burst out laughing. No way. There are girls like this, Susan said in surprise. What's even more outrageous is that my classmate actually said that the girl must have been testing him, and he kept chasing her. Do you think he's like a dog? William smiled. This girl is so disrespectful. Susan cursed, and suddenly seemed to react, blinked and said, Could this classmate be you? Get lost. How can I be a bootlicker? William patted her drum again and said with a smile, I just saw too many of these things, and I feel free without love. It's too tiring to keep catering to a girl. It's better not to believe in love and make money to invest in myself. Susan seemed to be sure that the classmate was him. She patted his head and comforted him. Don't be sad, Iang. It's because that girl is not worthy of you. I told you it's not me, William said angrily, not wanting to take the blame for his classmate. I know, don't be angry. I'm not angry. It's not me. Why should I be angry? Yes, yes, you are not angry. You obviously think it's me. It was nearly 11 o'clock at night. William then returned to the downstairs of his apartment building. Goodbye, I don't miss me so much that you lose sleep again. Chapter 25. This woman really doesn't do anything. When William got off the car, Susan stuffed something into his pocket, then waved and walked away with a smile on her face. William watched the Rolls-Royce disappear from his sight and curiously searched his trouser pockets. I'm awesome. I saw a ball of soft black stockings appear in my hand. At this moment, William's cell phone also rang with a WeChat notification. Susan, don't be touched. This is what I just changed today. It's still original. Don't play too long tonight. Go to bed early. William yelled, Get lost. This woman is really useless. William took back his phone, looked at the black stockings that still had a warm fragrance, and put it in his pocket. Go back and wash them for her. This quality costs at least several $1,000s each. Don't waste it. The second day, as the head of investment promotion. When William returned to the company after work, he received a notice from his manager Diana that a supervisor meeting would be held. Jinxiu Trading plans to hold a large-scale investment promotion conference in Jiangnan this weekend, and the work of all departments this week will revolve around investment promotion. The capital of Jiangnan is Linnan, which is also one of the central cities in the Yangtze River Delta. Including Linnan, there are 11 prefecture-level cities. In William's initial investment promotion plan, the entire investment promotion department will be divided into 11 groups, with each group responsible for a prefecture-level city. Jinxiu Trading has many old customers and will distribute customer information of each region to each group. These are all merchants who have cooperated with Jinxiu before. During this week, we will communicate with potential customers by phone in advance. Next week, the entire investment promotion department will be sent on a business trip to Jiangnan. Each group will visit potential customers on their own and explore new customer groups locally. After William finished telling her about his plan, Diana nodded and said, Jinxiu attaches great importance to the investment promotion of new brands this time. President Liu will also accompany us on a business trip to Jiangnan. There are certain requirements for the contract signing task indicators, so I hope everyone can fully participate in this investment promotion, especially William. You have a heavy task. William nodded. Detailed information and planning can only increase the success rate of the plan, but the final result often depends only on the execution ability of the executor. This is what is called paper talk. Many people can talk big, but when it comes to actual operation, it is full of variables, so it tests the ability to perform on the spot and adapt to changes. If the investment promotion can achieve its goal this time, at least William will be able to secure the position of investment promotion director. After the meeting, William returned to his department and began to divide the areas among the investment promotion specialists. After working here for almost half a year, William has a general understanding of the abilities of these colleagues and even knows some of their habits better than his leaders. After all, many people are too lazy to pretend in front of their colleagues, and their temperament will be revealed according to their schedule. William's main work arrangement is naturally in the provincial capital Linnan. It was only during lunch that William had time to take out his cell phone and reply to the message Sushan had sent him in the morning. Susan, did you not faint last night and affect your work today? William, fuck you. I wash your stockings by hand with good intentions. Come and take them away some other day. Otherwise, I'll feel like a pervert if I, a bachelor, hang a pair of stockings on the balcony. Susan, oh, well, did you really wash it? Did you want to destroy the body after washing it? William, angry. Do I need to use your stockings to rush? Is it that the girls in the game are not attractive anymore? Or is it that my wife's panties are not good-looking anymore? Susan, Omega. Oh, I see. So you are hinting that I should send you a plain pantyhose. William, get lost. Chapter 26, Resentful Old Classmate. This woman really never forgets to make fun of herself every moment. However, due to Susan's personality, although she had only known him for a short time, she was as familiar with him as if they had been friends for many years. William shook his head and clicked on a WeChat group called Otaku Group. This WeChat group was created by William and two old classmates who were good friends with him. They would call people here when they played games on weekends. William, Odajin, Lao Zhenghao, you two have been diving every day recently. What are you doing? The two guys were his roommates in college, and they kept in touch after graduation. What's more important is that they all work in Shanghai, so when they are free, they will make appointments to have a barbecue and drink beer. William was an orphan before. He still made two good friends because they had similar common interests. Oh, Zijin. If I don't dive, what else can I do? I go to get off work, come home from work, play games, and it's just a straight line. There's no passion at all. Liao Jinghao. When I was in school, I thought I could make a name for myself and expected to enter society early to realize my ambitions and make a lot of money. I didn't expect that I would become a social animal, working 996 every day. I don't know when I can make a name for myself. William couldn't help but sigh when he heard what the two resentful classmates said. This is the life of an ordinary person. William, Liao Jinghao, Howsy, at least you have a girlfriend, while Jianzi is still single. This Liao Jinghao is the dog who delivered yogurt on a rainy night that William and Susan mentioned before. You know what? He really went through a lot of hardships and got that girl. Liao Jinghao. Oh, Zijian. That's right. A love that started from college together. How enviable. Liao Jinghao. Awkward, you may not know yet. I broke up a few days ago. William was a little surprised. What's going on? Didn't you guys agree to get married after graduation? Oh, Zijian. Yes, last time we went out to eat barbecue, I heard you say that you were going to save money for your wedding. Liao Jinghao. Well, it's a long story. Brothers, let's have dinner together today. I'll have a good chat with you guys. Oh, Zijian. Sure. Is Yangzi free? William thought about it and typed. That's fine with me. Where is the meeting? Liao Jinghao. The old place. William. Okay, let's meet at the usual place. Zijian. Okay. Time passed quickly, and it was time to get off work. After William left the company, he went straight to the place where he had made an appointment with those two old classmates. More than half an hour later, William walked into a Shanxing hot pot restaurant. This is the place where William and his two resentful classmates used to have dinner together. Because Liao Jinghao is from Shanxing, he loves to eat hot pot. When he was in college, he always took him and Zijian to eat Shanxing hot pot. After trying many different restaurants, I found this one to be the most authentic, so I made it my regular place for dinner parties. It was only a little after 6 in the afternoon. William first found a table next to the floor-to-ceiling window and sat down. The view here was good, and he could see the young ladies passing by outside in cool clothes. It seems that some habits cannot be changed for a while. William muttered to himself with some amusement. This way of finding a table is still the habit I used to have when I had dinner with those two resentful classmates. The point, of course, is to see the young lady passing by. Chapter 27, The Legendary Tigress. However, William's aesthetic taste has been greatly influenced by Susan, and most young ladies have no interest in watching him. But after coming in just now, he still habitually found a position like this. William shook his head with regret, took out his cell phone, and sent a message in the otaku group. These two resentful creatures are already on their way. They had just got off work, too, but the journey they had taken was even longer than his. William asked the waiter to serve the soup base and take the dishes, and also ordered 2 cartons of beer. After all, Howsy had just broken up, and he must have a lot of sad tears to tell, and he couldn't do without wine. After William ordered the food, he saw that Susan had sent him a message again. Susan, what is Iang doing? Is he off work yet? Do you want to have dinner together? Omega. William typed a reply. I have a date with a classmate tonight. Let's do it another day. Susan. Oh my, Carrot. It turns out that I am not as important to you as your classmates. William. Don't make a fuss. This is my college roommate. One of them is the bootlicker I told you about last night. He broke up with his girlfriend. I came to comfort him tonight. Susan. What? Dish, that liquor is really not you. William. Get lost. I've always said it wasn't me, but you're the only one who's convinced yourself. Susan. Ha ha ha. Asterisk, I feel like you're not the type of person who can lick. Otherwise, why wouldn't you lick me when I'm such a beautiful woman next to you? William. My licking can kill you. Do you believe it? Susan, come and try it. William. Just give it a try. Me. Q. Susan. If you can, go to the location where it happened. Dashu no sara akusangurabu. William. Just send it. Oh. He decisively swung over and continued typing. If you don't come, you're a dog. Susan. I'm not a dog. I'm a little white tiger. */omega asterisk. William. A hashtag miss don't drive. It's very dangerous. Susan. What are you thinking? I'm a tiger. Omega asterisk. William. Fuck. So you are the legendary tigress. So scary. Me. Susan. Are you scared? The tigress will bite you to death. Ng equals omega. Smiley face O. William chatted with Susan while the hot pot soup base and ingredients were served. Zijian and Liao Jinghao also arrived at the hot pot restaurant one after another. Yangzi chose a good position. Zijian gave a thumbs up as soon as he came up. I came early, so I can pick any seat I want. William smiled. It's so comfortable to eat hot pot while enjoying the air conditioning. Liao Jinghao almost drooled as he looked at the fiery red soup base. Hurry up and sit down, let's get started. William began to put the ingredients into the soup base. While Ozijin opened the beer for them, he glanced at William and said, Yangzi, why do you look so radiant? Have you made a fortune recently? Liao Jinghao also looked at William and said, it does feel a little different. It must be either a promotion or a girlfriend. William laughed and scolded. Indeed, you have been promoted. Can I treat you to a meal? Ozijin asked curiously. Promotion? Did he become a team leader? William did not hide it. Our supervisor changed jobs a few days ago. The leader was more optimistic about me and asked me to take over the supervisor's position, jumping 2 levels. Liao Jinghao's eyes widened. Fuck. Supervisor? That's Jinxiu's supervisor. That's awesome. Ozijin was also surprised. Yangzi, you are amazing. You have been promoted to supervisor in less than half a year. Your benefits are at least several times better than ours. Chapter 28. Sadness of Old Classmates. I just got damn lucky. William rolled his eyes and simply changed the subject. Howsy, tell me about your story first. Why did you break up? He remembered that he had been licking Howsy's girlfriend since high school and continued to do so until his sophomore year. Although her looks are not very high, she is above average. She looks pretty delicate and cute, but she behaves a bit like a little fairy. It's just that this is Liao Jinghao's first love since high school, so William naturally can't say anything bad about her to her face. When Liao Jinghao heard William mention this, he no longer wanted to gossip about him. He sighed and took a sip of beer. What else could it be? They just think I'm poor. Poor? Ozijin was a little surprised. Su Chinner shouldn't be such a girl, right? Otherwise, she wouldn't have agreed to your pursuit at that time. People change. Liao Jinghao ate a mouthful of mutton hot pot in a depressed mood, and then took a sip of beer, and then continued. Some time ago, she said that her parents asked her to go home. I didn't care at first, but after she came back, she told me that she broke up. I asked her the reason, and she didn't hide it from me. It turned out that her parents in her hometown introduced her to a blind date. The man's family is in business. They own 2 restaurants. He drives a Mercedes, and he promised Chinner that if she married him, he would give her a BMW and a betrothal gift of 300,000 yuan to her family. So Su Chinner agreed to it? Ozijin asked with his eyes wide open. She didn't agree directly, but asked me if I could fulfill the conditions that the man mentioned. Liao Jinghao said dejectedly. So what do you say? William couldn't help but ask. I asked if I could give her 5 years, but she said 5 years is too long and she can't wait. By then she will be an old maid. Who can guarantee that I can fulfill these promises by then? She wants to see the ready-made results now and wants to know how important she is to me. Liao Jinghao continued drinking beer and said, but you all know that my family is just an ordinary family. I have a BMW and a betrothal gift of 300,000 yuan. If I want to pay for it now, I have to sell the house. But if my family sells the house, where will my parents live? William asked again, is there no room for maneuver? That's all. Liao Jinghao shook his head. In fact, I've seen through things a little bit since graduation. Chinner told me every day that her best friend had a boyfriend who took her out to play and travel every day. She didn't have to go to work and wore branded clothes and carried branded bags. She looked no worse than her best friend, but they had different fates. She worked hard every day, but only had enough money to buy cosmetics and skincare products for herself. William and Ozijin listened to his story and could only silently raise their beer to clink glasses with him and drink with him. Liao Jinghao drank the whole bottle and continued with a wry smile. From that time on, I knew that she was complaining that I couldn't give her much and that I didn't have money. But what can I do? If I want to marry her, I have to save money to buy a car and a house, and I have to pay for the wedding. If I spend my salary on eating, drinking, and having fun with her every day, then how can we have a future? Besides, with my salary, after eating, drinking, and having fun, it's not enough to buy her branded clothes and bags. So, I suddenly felt very tired. The relationship of more than 3 years was shattered just because of the comparison with my best friend, a BMW and a betrothal gift of 300,000 yuan. Chapter 29. Look, there is a beauty at 9 o'clock. William hesitated for a moment, then said, Mouse, if you need money, I can get you some. In fact, he himself also felt that the woman was not suitable for Howsy, but he didn't know whether Howsy would think of redeeming the relationship if there was still hope. Therefore, based on our friendship over the years, I will help if I can. Zijian also patted Liao Jinghao on the shoulder and said, "If it's about the same, I can help." Liao Jinghao smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I know what you mean, but I have also figured it out. There has been a crack in my relationship for a long time, and it cannot be repaired. Chinner and I have different values. What she wants now is something ready-made. She wants to compare with others. If we really get married in the future, she will also dislike me for not being as good as other people's husbands. So I've let it go. Let's break up." William breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It's good that you think this way. In fact, I also think that you two are not suitable, but as a close friend, I would rather persuade you to reconcile than to break up, and it's not good to say anything bad about your girlfriend. She's my ex-girlfriend." Liao Jinghao shook the beer bottle and said with a smile. After the hot pot meal, 2 boxes of beer were also emptied. It was past 8 o'clock in the evening. William paid the bill while going to the toilet. Even though he just said that he would pay the bill, these 2 guys often secretly snatch the bill from him. In fact, it's because I know he has no relatives or friends, and his life will be more difficult in the future, so I take care of him. This is also the reason why William offered to lend money to help just now. Sometimes, the relationship between some buddies can be seen clearly by everyone. Only those who have truly compatible personalities will not lose contact and remain buddies even after graduation. There are many close friends like this. "Brothers, it's time to end the party and go back to your homes." William patted his 2 old classmates. "Okay, let's meet again some other time." Liao Jinghao and Zijian were still sober, so the 3 of them walked out of the hot pot restaurant together. "Yangzi, you have the worst alcohol tolerance. Let us call a taxi for you and take you to the car," Liao Jinghao said as he led the 2 of them to the side of the road. Hey, guys, look at the 9 o'clock direction. There's a super beautiful girl." At this moment, Zijian suddenly tugged at the corner of their clothes stealthily, pretending to be serious on his face, but in fact his eyes were glancing in another direction. "Fuck, she's really a beautiful, rich, and fair lady. That's a Rolls Royce, right?" She got out of that car. Liao Jinghao also shouted in a low voice. Both of them are the kind of cowards who want to see beautiful women but are afraid of being discovered, so they can only glance at them secretly with their eyes tilted. William also looked up curiously towards the 9 o'clock direction. "Oh my God, she actually came here?" This so-called super beauty turned out to be Sister Susan, who was wearing an OL suit. Hey, come here, don't peek, or you will be looked down upon." Liao Jinghao reported the latest developments at any time. Zijian was so timid that he even withdrew his eyes, for fear that the beautiful woman would think he was disgusting and look down upon him. William shook his head with amusement. Not long ago, he was also one of them. But now, William simply raised his hand and waved at Susan. "Sister Susan, I'm here." "I know. I saw you a long time ago." Susan ran over with a sweet smile and put her arm around his. Liao Jinghao and Zijian were dumbfounded. What was going on? Chapter 30, The Rich Woman is Hungry and Feeds. William saw their shocked and resentful expressions and introduced them helplessly. "This is my friend, Susan." Susan corrected him gracefully. "Hello, I'm Iang's girlfriend." Hello. The 2 resentful classmates replied quickly, too timid to look up. After all, this beauty's aura is so strong that it feels like she is from a different world. William was too lazy to argue with Susan and waved at the 2 complainers. "Brothers, I'm leaving first. We'll meet again another day." Liao Jinghao and Zijian looked in disbelief as their best friend was dragged by the beautiful woman and got into the Rolls-Royce parked on the side of the road. Even after the car had gone far away, their faces were still filled with shock. "Oh my God, how is this possible? When did Yangzi meet such a white, rich, and beautiful woman?" The 2 resentful classmates looked at each other, wondering if they had drunk too much. "Rat, slap me and see if I'm drunk. Shuttlecock, slap me too, to see if I'm drunk." Then, on the side of the road, in front of a hot pot restaurant, 2 young men, college graduates, raised their palms and slapped each other in the face. William got in the car not long ago. He was madly egged by 2 resentful classmates in the otaku group. Zijian. "William, oh my God. Yangzi, is that beauty really your girlfriend?" Shocked. Liao Jinghao. "William, Yangzi, where did you get to know such a beautiful, rich, and white girlfriend?" Horrified. Zijian. "William, leniency to those who confess, severity to those who resist. Confess quickly and truthfully." Liao Jinghao. "William, damn, I just broke up and you're showing off in front of me. Is this really appropriate? William was sitting in the passenger seat, slightly tipsy, looking at his phone with amusement. These two enemies must be jealous. Type reply. This is a bit complicated to explain. I can only say it's fate. When fate arrives, two people will meet. Ozijian? Fate? Can this thing bring me a beautiful, rich lady who drives a Rolls-Royce Phantom? Liao Jinghao. Swelling face, big question mark, Yangzi, I don't believe you. William. Well, this is the truth. If you don't believe it, how about you just treat me as a gigolo? I don't want to work hard anymore. I'll just cling to the rich woman's thighs and cry, I'm hungry every day, and the rich woman will feed me gigolo. Oh, Zijian. There is such a young, beautiful, and rich woman? Are you kidding me? Liao Jinghao. That's right. I admit that you are more handsome than us. But can you also introduce us to a rich woman? It doesn't matter if your looks are not as good. I don't want to work hard anymore. William. This is easy. If you see a luxury car passing by on the road, just rush over to stop it. If there is a woman inside, call her mom loudly and see if the rich woman will give you a chance to be filial to her. Oh, Zijian. Get lost, you are trying to trick us into eating the government's food. Liao Jinghao. God, please strike with thunder. There's a rebellious man trying to get his hands on a rich woman. William chatted with the two grudges for a while, then felt his brain was a little dizzy from the phone after drinking, so he just left them alone and didn't bother to pay any attention to them. Ayang, are you drunk? Susan saw William leaning back in his chair with his eyes closed. She took out a pack of wet wipes from her bag, took out a few, and wiped his face carefully. No, I can drink quite well and don't get drunk easily. Besides, I can control myself and usually don't get drunk. William smelled the faint body fragrance wafting from Susan, slightly opened his eyes, and smiled. Chapter 31, Is My Sister Unworthy? Sister Susan's charming face looks particularly beautiful under the city's night lights. Why are you staring at me? Susan smoothed her hair and smiled at him tenderly. William's face flushed, and he found a random topic to say. Sister Susan, why are you still wearing your uniform? Didn't you go home? I have to say, with Susan's unbeatable figure of a slim waist, perky butt and long legs, she looks very stylish in any clothes. Especially her pair of delicate feet wrapped in ultra-thin black stockings, looking very attractive in high heels. Susan sat back and said with a smile, I want to have dinner with your mother after work, and since it was about the same time, I came straight over to see you. When William heard Susan mention his strange biological mother, her figure also appeared in his mind. In fact, he has been quite conflicted these days. He had seen news online before about some abducted children being found by their biological parents. At that time, he was wondering whether his biological parents were more important or the parents who raised him were more important. At that time, many netizens said that the grace of raising a child is greater than the grace of giving birth, because the process of raising a child will continuously deepen the family ties between both parties. And now, William is faced with the problem of dealing with this strange mother. There were a full 21 years between him and her. They had not lived together since he was taken away by his father when he was 1 year old. It can be said that the most important process of deepening the family relationship was missing between the two. So, now the result is that when William faces this strange mother, he doesn't know how to control his emotions and how to get along with her. Anyway, to William, Yang Li was just a stranger in his eyes. He had no idea of her emotions. She also doesn't know any of her own preferences. In fact, a real mother and son grow up together since childhood, and many things happen in this process, which continuously increases their understanding of each other and the integration of family affection. But William is now missing this link with this strange mother, which is also the most important growth stage in his life. How can we bridge the gap of 21 years? In short, he can't figure out the specific ideas now, so he can only take one step at a time. Aang, are you thinking about your mother? Susan saw William in a daze, slumped in his chair, and kicked him lightly with her high heels. No. William came back to his senses, not wanting to admit it, so he changed the subject and said with a smile, By the way, Sister Susan, why did you introduce her to my friend as my girlfriend just now? Susan immediately looked at him with a pitiful expression as if she was about to cry. Isn't my sister worthy? Although William knew that she was pretending, he didn't want to hurt her. He reached out and took Susan's cool little hand and held it in his palm, smiling. Of course they are a match, a perfect match, a top match, a match made in heaven. Susan tried hard to hold back her laughter. Her eyes narrowed into crescents. Why are you so sweet today? William shamelessly played with Susan's delicate little hands. Maybe it's because you suddenly came to me from nowhere. I really didn't expect you to come here. Susan smiled coquettishly and teased. Then you said in Weixin that you would lick me when I came over. Why don't you lick me now? You really treat me like a bootlicker. William rolled his eyes and glanced at Xiaoqing, who was driving in front. Her bodyguard is still here, so this is not the right time to lick her. Chapter 32, The Black Gold Card from Mom. Susan reached out and pinched him hard, snorting, I knew you were just teasing me. William curled his lips. When you officially become my girlfriend, I will definitely lick you to heaven. Susan narrowed her eyes and smiled. Then I'll wait for this day to come. The two chatted, and soon the Rolls-Royce stopped downstairs of William's apartment. When getting off the car, Susan grabbed William and stuffed a bank card into his hand. Your mother asked me to give this to you. The password is your birthday. William looked WN at the black gold card lying in his palm, hesitated for a moment, and finally accepted it. Tell her thank you for me. William opened the car door and got out. Whether this strange mother was feeling guilty or wanted to make amends, he had no reason to refuse, otherwise it would seem a bit pretentious. Who doesn't like money? However, the estrangement of these 21 years cannot be filled by money. William returned to his residence, took a shower, and then lay down on the bed, holding in his hand this bank card with a heavy metallic feel. I don't know how much money is in it. William muttered curiously and stuffed the bank card directly into his wallet. He had no intention of using the money now, nor was he very interested in knowing how much money was in it. It can be said that William has his own temper. Before he has sorted out his relationship with this strange mother, he doesn't want to use her money. Time passed quickly into busyness, and a few days went by before I knew it. Soon it's next week. When William returned to the company, he found several colleagues gathered together discussing something, exclaiming in amazement. This is big news. The chairman of Longway Industrial Group and his son have been arrested and sentenced. I really didn't expect Longway to collapse so quickly. I heard that the entire group's projects were closed down the day before yesterday. Many projects were suspected of illegal operations, and bribery and pyramid selling were also involved. I've also heard that overnight, Longway's 2 factories and a construction site were closed. Their accounts were frozen, dealers and suppliers stopped cooperating, and banks cut off loans in the name of loan risks, causing Longway Industrial's capital chain to be completely cut off. It is said that after the news got out, the workers on the construction site started making trouble. The suppliers demanded repayment, and the buyers of pre-purchased houses demanded repayment, which almost drove the father and son of Longway Group crazy. What you said is only a small part. I heard that Jung Tao was involved in obsession and rape. The situation is probably even more complicated. I think Longway Group has offended some big shot this time. That's possible. Otherwise, why didn't anything happen before, but all of it happened now? William listened to the conversation of his colleagues and probably knew what had happened, with a dull look in his eyes. Father and son of Longway Group? Isn't it Jung Tao? He and his father were actually sentenced and arrested? William already had a rough idea of who was behind this incident. Otherwise, how could it be such a coincidence that Longway Group has been established for so many years and nothing has happened before, but all of them were exposed in the past few days? Moreover, the case was handled so quickly. In less than 3 days, a company with assets worth tens of billions went bankrupt, and the father and son were thoroughly investigated. Evidence was collected, and they were sentenced to prison. All this was completed in just 3 days. Under normal circumstances, our dragon country doesn't have such high efficiency. Chapter 33. Is it fun to play games? William shook his head and sighed in his heart. You will suffer the consequences if you do evil. I didn't think about it anymore and continued to focus on today's work and make a business trip plan for tomorrow. Jinxiu normally works a 5-day work week, which means 2 days off on the weekend, but this investment promotion conference is the focus of the company's next stage, and William has just been promoted to supervisor, so he naturally cannot be lazy. He works overtime in the company on weekends to make plans. This trip will take us almost half a month in Jiangnan because there are too many clients to visit. And in the last 2 days, we will also hold a brand launch conference and investment promotion meeting in the provincial capital Linan, so time is still very tight. At the end of the workday, William had just finished a meeting with the team leaders of the investment promotion department. When he walked out of the meeting room, he received a call from Susan. Ayang, are you free tonight? Susan's soft and pleasant voice came from the phone. William returned to his office, thought for a moment, and said, I don't have anything to do tonight. I'm going to Linan on a business trip tomorrow. I originally wanted to relax my mind and go back to play games. What's so fun about games? Don't I feel great playing them? Susan said with a smile. You are wrong. The game is much more fun. I have a lot of wives waiting for me to favor them. William said seriously. I don't care, just accompany me shopping. You haven't accompanied me these few days. Susan said with a tantrum. William had no way to deal with Susan's shameless behavior, so he said with a smile, Well, where can I find you? Come down now. I'm across the street from your company. Susan said with a smile. William curled his lips. It seems that you are already waiting for me, right? I want to see you earlier. Susan started to act coquettishly and cutely again. He also said that she was 4 years older than him. How could this sister, Susan, look like an older sister? William said helplessly. Then you wait for me downstairs. I will come down now. Okay, I'll wait for you. Susan said sweetly. How disgusting. William complained insincerely, hung up the phone, and walked towards the elevator. We just wasted some time, and now there are not many people waiting for the elevator. I took the elevator smoothly and went all the way downstairs. William stood at the door of the company and looked up to see the Rolls-Royce across the street. Fortunately, Sister Susan knew how to avoid suspicion and did not drive directly downstairs to pick him up. Otherwise, the news that he drove home from get-off work in a Rolls-Royce would probably spread throughout the company very quickly. William crossed the road, then quietly walked around, came to the side with his back to the company building, opened the car door, and slipped in. Aang, you're finally here. When Susan saw him getting in the car, she rushed over to him and kissed him all over the face like a couple. William opened her forehead and pouted. Why do you take advantage of me as soon as we meet? It's immoral. Didn't you say that night that I was worthy of being your girlfriend? Susan glared angrily. That doesn't mean you haven't been cleared of your guilt yet. You're just a friend now, and we're still getting to know each other. William pinched her soft face with amusement. Hee hee. Sooner or later I'll make you fall at my feet. Susan muttered with her chest puffed out. William glanced at the car that was already moving and asked her, Where are we going now? Chapter 34, Let Me Be Your Girlfriend. Let's eat first, then go shopping and buy you a few sets of clothes for business trips and meetings with clients. Susan said with a smile, taking his arm. Okay, I have no objection. William said indifferently. Susan today. She was dressed like a typical lady today. A floral dress with puff sleeves that revealed her snow-white arms, and shiny flesh-colored stockings wrapped around her beautiful legs. A head of big chestnut curly hair draped over one shoulder makes her look like a queen. The pair of crystal high heels on her feet were sparkling and very beautiful. Sister Susan, how many pairs of high heels do you have? William couldn't help but ask curiously. It seemed that every time he saw Susan, she would wear different high heels, and each pair was new and exquisite. Susan smiled and put her calves on his knees, shaking the high heels on her feet, and said, Aang, you may not know that I am a girl who is obsessed with stockings and high heels. There are at least hundreds of pairs of high heels in my shoe cabinet at home, and every time new shoes are released, someone will send them to me, so I basically change them every day, otherwise I really can't wear them all. William looked up and down at Sister Susan's crystal high heels, as if he were examining a work of art. This kind of crystal high heels does not mean that the entire shoe is carved out of crystal. Instead, a layer of pink and glittering broken crystals is applied on the upper, making the upper look full of refraction and sparkling, like a layer of pink diamonds, which is very beautiful. What is a severe stockings fetish? William didn't have a girlfriend, so he had to gossip about girls to Susan. Susan said with a smile, I just like to wear all kinds of stockings. I have piles and piles of stockings in my room, in all kinds of colors, shapes, patterns, and brands. Basically, I throw them away after wearing them. They are disposable consumables. What a waste. Where did you throw it? I'll pick it up. William grinned, feeling sorry. Susan giggled and poked his forehead with her fragrant fingertips. It was cut into pieces by the housekeeper when it was thrown away. What's the point of picking it up? Then the stockings I washed for you were wasted? I rubbed them for half an hour. Did you really wash it? What else? Do you think I'm kidding? Haha, since you wash it all for me, I'll take it home tonight and keep it and mark it as the first piece of clothing that Aang washed for me. By the way, your stockings are really thin and slippery. William said seriously, holding Susan's calf with his big hand, and continued, When I washed your stockings by hand that day, I was really afraid that I would accidentally tear them for you. Sister Susan's pair of tight and slender long legs are really invincible. Wrapped in these ultra-thin, flesh-colored shiny stockings, they are full of the charm of a royal sister. Aang, if you let me be your girlfriend, I will wear different stockings and high heels every day for you to see. I guarantee you will like it. Susan blinked her almond-shaped eyes and said cutely, "That's not necessary." William rolled his eyes. "I watch it every day now." "So, you just want to watch?" Susan raised the corners of her mouth slightly, and with a click of her feet, she kicked off her high heels and stepped on his knees with her two bare, flesh-colored feet. "Ahem, it's nice to just watch." William coughed and felt that he had awakened some strange attributes. Chapter 35 Shopping Date. "Then please massage my feet for me. I must be so tired coming here to see you." Susan's little feet with bright red manicure kept stepping on his knees. William didn't say anything. He held her feet and rubbed them for her, saying seriously, "Thank you for your hard work, Sister Susan." Yeah. Susan leaned her head against the car door and looked at him with a smile. Not long after, the car stopped in front of a luxury hotel. William then reluctantly let go of Susan's feet and looked outside. "Aren't you going to Wangjiang Pavilion today?" William discovered that the hotel this time was Faluju, which is also one of the famous luxury hotels in Shanghai. "Let's change our taste today and have some authentic Chinese food." Susan twisted her waist and wore high heels elegantly. "That's great. I like Chinese food," William said truthfully. "By the way, Ayang, this is also the restaurant opened by your mother." William didn't know what to say. Does his strange biological mother have so many properties? The Chinese food at Faluju is really good, and it's also owned by their own mother. William naturally didn't hesitate and specifically picked out expensive dishes that he had never eaten before. After finishing dinner, we arrived at Zijiawi. So William and Susan went shopping in a nearby super large shopping mall and digested their food. As it is the beginning of the nightlife, there are many people in the shopping mall. Susan walked in front holding William's arm. Passers-by were always attracted by Susan's beauty and looked in their direction. William was not used to being stared at with such surprised eyes, as if he was being looked at by a pretty boy, and he felt a little uncomfortable. "What's wrong with you?" Susan noticed that something was wrong with him and tilted her head to look at him curiously. "Sister Susan, you get so many people turning their heads to look at you. Don't you feel uncomfortable?" William whispered to her. Susan giggled and covered her mouth with her hands. "Why should I feel uncomfortable? I have given speeches to tens of thousands of people before. Just ignore them." William laughed at himself and said, "I guess these people are thinking that a toad like me is walking with a swan. We are not a good match at all." What he said was true. He was wearing only a set of casual clothes of an ordinary brand. Susan was wearing a custom-made Dior ladies suit, which added to her elegant temperament and made a lot of clicking sounds with her high heels. It's like he and William are from two completely different worlds. "Let's see who dares." Susan snorted and turned to glance at the people around her. The cold gaze that had been cultivated in the Snow Mountain group for a long time made everyone subconsciously nervous and avoid it. When they came to their senses, they found that cold sweat had appeared on their backs. They dared not look around anymore and walked quickly with their heads down. William looked at this magical scene and marveled. "Is Susan that scary?" After Susan withdrew her gaze, she moved her soft face closer, smiled, and said gently, "Come on, don't be depressed, sister, kiss you." As she spoke, she was about to kiss William's face. William quickly dodged. "Stop it, we are still on the street." "Susan is unhappy." Susan pouted and threw a tantrum. Seeing her expression, William couldn't help but lean over and kiss her cheek softly. "Okay, this is my good young master," Susan immediately smiled. Chapter 36 Pack them all for me. Armani flagship store, one of the world's top luxury brands. Known as one of the 8 red bloods, it is a brand exclusively used by royal families in various countries. It has a long history and has deep roots in the royal family. People who can buy clothes there are at least high-income people from the gold-collar class. William was pulled by Susan into the flagship store. Seeing the store's stylish and luxurious decoration, he, a wage earner who had just graduated from college, had never been exposed to this kind of class environment. A uniformed salesgirl immediately came over to greet Susan warmly upon seeing her. "Boss Jiang, you are here. I have already prepared everything in advance." William glanced at the salesgirl's name tag and found out that she was the store manager. Susan pulled William and said to the female store manager, "Let's get started. This is the master you are serving today." "Okay, Mr. Jiang, just leave it to us." The female store manager clapped her hands, and immediately 2 salesgirls came over to measure William's size. This was the first time William encountered such a situation. He could only let them do whatever they wanted and look at Susan from time to time. "I finally finished measuring all the sizes of my body." A salesgirl was already pushing a whole hanger of clothes over for him to try on. Sister Susan, this? William looked at Susan, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Susan patted his shoulder, leaned close to his ear, and said softly, "Just enjoy these services with peace of mind. This is the life you should live. You will get used to it slowly." William had no choice but to bite the bullet and take the clothes and go to the locker room to change into them. From more casual pants, t-shirts, and casual shoes to suits, leather shoes, belts, and ties for formal occasions. Finally, there were cufflinks, collar buttons, and other clothing items, all of which William tried on. Every time William came out after changing his clothes, Susan would pull him to stand in front of the floor-length mirror, with his arms open and motionless, allowing her to match him in various ways from head to toe. "Sir, your figure is really suitable for wearing a suit. Your whole aura seems different." The female shop owner praised sincerely. "You do not say. It really proves the saying that clothes make the man." William is nearly 1.87 meters tall, with a slender figure. He is half a head taller than Susan, who is wearing high heels. Even though he's a stay-at-home, he's young and muscular, with a handsome face and a healthy, waxy complexion. Wearing this pure white cotton and cashmere blend shirt, a navy blue thin cashmere slim-fit suit, and a pair of black derby shoes, she looks like a professional model. Susan was holding a uniform blue geometric striped silk tie in her hand and was tying it carefully for him. She said with a smile, "Ayang, when you walk down the street this time, you will surely seduce many girls. Even I can't help but feel my heart beating fast." William's face turned red from all the compliments, and he said shamelessly, "Sister Susan, stop joking. I can't stand compliments." Susan chuckled, helped him straighten his collar, and said softly, "Take a look at it yourself to see if it fits you." William looked at himself in the large fitting mirror and indeed looked more handsome than before. Susan had already told the female shop owner, "Pack up all the clothes and shoes that Jan tried on just now and send them to my car." "Okay, Mr. Jian, we'll pack the things right away." The female store manager responded and went to work. Chapter 37, I Don't Want to Go Home. William poked Susan his slender waist and whispered, "I've tried on more than a dozen sets of clothes just now, right? Do you want to buy so many? This is not a lot. Your mother asked me to buy these for you. I will also arrange for them to customize a batch of clothes for you according to your size to fill up your closet. Then you can change into different styles every day." Susan looked at him with a smile. "My closet is going to be packed tonight," William said helplessly. As for what Sister Susan said, it was her strange biological mother who asked her to buy it, and he didn't say that he had to pay for it himself. Anyway, the bank cards have been collected, so it doesn't matter if they collect some clothes or something. William's apartment with their bags. "Haha, Ayang, you really left my stockings hanging out to dry?" As soon as Susan entered the room and put her things on the sofa, she looked up and saw a pair of black stockings hanging on the clothes hanger in the living room. A few days ago, William took the stockings back after seeing them dry, but he didn't know how to store them. He was worried that there would be folding marks or something, so he could only hang them in the living room first. Also carefully used 2 clips to clamp the horizontal bar under the hanger to hold the soft stockings underneath, instead of directly using the 2 ends of the hanger to stretch the stockings, for fear of tearing or deforming the stockings. Still laughing? Who told you to put it in my pocket? It's a worn item. How can you eat it without washing it? William slapped her in the face in annoyance. Susan exclaimed tenderly and giggled. "Ayang, you are so cute that it kills me." William rolled his eyes, turned on the air conditioner, poured her a glass of water, and asked, "When are you going back?" Susan slumped down on the sofa, babbling, and turned on the TV with the remote control like a hostess, saying, "I'm so tired from shopping tonight. I don't want to go home." "Why aren't you going back to sleep?" William looked confused. His bachelor apartment only has 1 room. "Can I sleep on the sofa?" "Don't chase me away." Susan looked at him pitifully. William was helpless. "I didn't say I was going to kick you out. You can sleep in my room, and I'll sleep on the sofa." How could he bear to let such a delicate girl spend the night on the sofa? Susan smiled and chuckled. "It's still our young master who cares about me." William rolled his eyes and walked over to take off her ultra-thin black stockings. "Take it back. Otherwise, if others see me having this at home, they will definitely think I'm a pervert." William handed the stockings to Susan depressedly. Susan took it and put it in her bag. She glanced at him and chuckled. "Why do you seem reluctant to part with it? Why don't I leave the one I'm wearing today to you? Leave your head alone. Go take a shower. It's getting late." William curled his lips. Susan rolled her eyes and pulled William's arm. "Ayang, I didn't bring any change of clothes." Oh yeah, so what should we do? Or you should go back. William also remembered this. No, I don't want to go back, but you promised to let me stay. Susan shook his arm and threw a tantrum. So, what do you want to do? William was so annoyed by her that he just threw the question to her. Susan's eyes lit up and she said with a smile, "Give me a clean shirt and I'll use it as pajamas." Okay. William had no other choice. Chapter 38, Susan the Lazy Pig. That's how it's played out in TV dramas anyway, with plenty of examples of girls wearing boys' shirts as pajamas. As he said that, he went back to his room and found a white shirt of his own. Go take a shower first. This towel is clean. I'll go downstairs and buy you new toiletries. William handed the things to her and said, "Okay, thank you for troubling our young master." Susan responded in a tender voice, holding a shirt and a towel and walking towards the bathroom, twisting her waist in a particularly queenly manner. William shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. After hearing the sound of water in the bathroom, he confirmed that she was fine. Then I went downstairs to the convenience store next door and bought some toiletries such as a toothbrush and a pair of fancy girl slippers. When he came back, he passed by the Rolls-Royce, thought about it, and knocked on the driver's door. "Master, is there anything wrong?" Xiaoqing rolled down the car window and asked him with her pretty eyes. Well, Susan is staying at my place tonight. Why don't you go back first or find a hotel nearby to rest?" William scratched his head and said, "It's okay. Young master, you don't have to worry about me. I can handle my own affairs." Xiaoqing said calmly. William guessed that she should have been accustomed to this kind of life and didn't say anything more. "Okay, you should be careful." After saying this, he found Xiaoqing staring at him strangely. William finally reacted. "She's a bodyguard. Am I not looking down on her? But this pretty female bodyguard really looks very confusing. Subconsciously, I thought she was just an ordinary girl." William shook his head in a helpless manner, waved at her, and went upstairs with his things. Back in her room, Susan was still taking a shower in the bathroom. While there was still time, William tidied up his room and took out a new sheet and pillow to spread on the bed. Then he took the bedding he usually slept on and placed it on the sofa in the living room. After finishing all this, Susan just came out of the bathroom, her fair face flushed. William's shirt is still a little loose on her curvy figure, and the hem just covers the thighs, giving her a sense of beauty as if her lower body is missing. Two slender white legs kicked William's slippers, and 10 jade toes with bright red nail polish were exposed in front, looking very beautiful. "Come on, change your slippers first." William washed the fancy slippers he had bought and brought them to Susan's feet. Susan blushed and quickly covered the corner of her clothes. She smiled quietly on her charming face. "Ayang, you are quite thoughtful. You even remembered to buy me slippers." William had straightened up and rolled his eyes. "Don't praise me. I'm afraid you'll fall in love with me." Susan burst into laughter and smoothed her hair on her shoulders. "Do you have a hairdryer in your room?" "Yes, it's on the table." William led her to his room, pointed at the hairdryer, and said, "Do you want me to help you blow dry?" "No, go take a shower. It's late." Susan put her legs together and pushed him away embarrassedly. William didn't think much about it. He took his pajamas and went into the bathroom. When William suddenly saw a pile of bright clothes lying in the bamboo basket where the clothes were placed, I suddenly understood why Susan acted a little strange just now. The next morning, William was awakened by the alarm clock. He quickly turned off the alarm and looked towards his room. Sure enough, the door was still closed, and that lazy pig Susan hadn't gotten up yet. Chapter 39. Business Trip to Jiangnan. Fortunately, William was well prepared and took out all the clothes he would change into for today. I changed my clothes quietly and went to the bathroom to wash up. William left her a note, and without waking her up, he took his suitcase and took a taxi to the company alone. Today, the entire department is leaving on a business trip to Jiangnan and will gather downstairs in the company. As soon as William arrived downstairs of the company, Diana looked for him from a distance and waved. "William, this way." William walked over with his suitcase and greeted the colleagues he met with a smile. After all, he is working in investment promotion. Even if he is not an extrovert, he should at least be cheerful and generous enough in communication. If he can't even pretend to be like this, he is destined to not have any great development. "Manager Gao, are you coming with us too?" William came up to Diana and asked with a refreshed look. He was wearing one of the outfits Susan picked out for him last night. A pure white cotton cashmere shirt paired with navy blue casual trousers and a pair of black derby shoes. Although not as formal as Oxford shoes, they are completely adequate for business occasions, and young people do not need to dress too rigidly. Moreover, When William is working, he usually makes his eyes look sharper, giving people a feeling of firmness and persistence. This also makes him look more mature and stable than his actual age, and no longer like a fledgling college graduate. Diana looked at William and laughed. This outfit suits you very well today. You look handsome and sunny. I won't be lucky enough to go to Linen with you. Mr. Liu will go with you. She has been an employee at Jinsho Trading for 7 or 8 years and is confident that her vision is no worse than others. She has witnessed the changes in William after he was promoted to investment promotion manager. His thin and handsome face looks more confident and calm, and his every move reveals the demeanor of a young talent. Therefore, she was looking forward to what kind of results William could achieve during this trip to Linen. Sister Chin is joking. William chuckled and looked sideways. Boss Liu went with us on the first day? Well, there is a friend of Mr. Liu in Linen. She plans to go there in person to talk, and she asked me to ask you to come along. You can go there in Mr. Liu's car today, and the others can drive the company's car. I will help you lead the team. Diana nodded and pointed to a Lincoln parked not far away. William looked in that direction and saw the black Lincoln car with its window rolled down, revealing Fiona's pretty and charming face, and she was waving at him with a smile. Boss Liu is calling you. Please go over first. I'll leave this here. Diana patted his shoulder. Okay, call me if you need anything. William nodded with a smile and walked over with his suitcase. Fiona's secretary Danielle got out of the car, helped him put the luggage in the trunk, and then returned to the driver's seat to drive. William opened the back door and got in. Fiona was the only one inside. Today she was wearing a figure-hugging red dress that tightly bound her soft waist. Her face was lightly made up, and she looked delicate and picturesque. Her good upbringing and pampered temperament gave her a natural elegance. The flesh-colored stockings under the skirt tightly wrapped her slender legs, and the red high heels were placed diagonally together, full of moving charm. Chapter 40: Walking with the Female CEO. William glanced at her sideways. Just in terms of the looks of a mature woman, the charm and temptation exuded by Fiona was the only mature beauty he had seen besides Yang Li. In particular, she seemed to know how to show her charm naturally. The pair of calves and stockings under her skirt were very touching. Even William, who had seen his strange biological mother, couldn't help but stare at her calves and stockings for a second longer. She was really a sexy beauty. William, riding in the same car with an old lady like me to Linen won't cause you any pressure or discomfort, right? Fiona lifted up the soft big wave on one shoulder, looked at William with a smile, and blinked. After all, in any company, no employee likes to be in the same space with the boss. No way. Ms. Liu looks like someone would believe me if she said she was my sister. What's more, Ms. Liu is so beautiful. It would be more pleasant to ride in a car with you, William said sweetly. Perhaps due to the long-term contact with Susan these days, his horizons and cognition have been greatly improved. Compared with when he met Fiona in the president's office last week, William is now more calm and not restrained at all. Fiona burst out laughing. You are taking advantage of me, my sister. I recalled that I once held William in my arms. He was wearing open-crotch pants at that time. Now he actually said that I was his sister. The more she thought about it, the funnier it became. Fiona held her stomach and giggled nonstop. Her soft and plump mature female body trembled continuously, giving off a different kind of temptation. Even Danielle, who was sitting in the front driver's seat, looked at the two of them curiously in the rearview mirror. I don't understand why Mr. Liu seems to treat William differently from others. William coughed lightly. I'm just making a metaphor, but I dare not take advantage of Mr. Liu. I know. I was just kidding you. Fiona observed William carefully and found that compared with the interview that day, he was indeed more mature and stable. In particular, his eyes were deep and sharp, and his eye corners were like Yang Li, very beautiful. Mr. Liu, are we setting off now? Dai near in front asked softly. Fiona realized that she had been staring at William for a long time, and her face turned slightly red. Yes, let's go first and don't wait for the main group. After Danielle started the car and slowly drove out of the road, Fiona finally came to her senses and handed William a document with a smile. This is the client information that you and I will meet after we arrive in Linen. William took it, looked through it carefully, and was slightly surprised. No wonder Fiona had to come out personally. This is really a huge client. Song Shuyuan, a business tycoon in Linen, mainly runs shopping centers, large department stores, and pedestrian streets. Her assets even extend from Linen to the entire Jiangnan region, including some industries in Shanghai. William knows very well that if you are selling products, you cannot do without shopping malls, shopping centers, and pedestrian streets, because these areas are the shopping places with the largest flow of people. Once we can reach a cooperation with Song Shuyuan, we will be able to open brand stores in all the large shopping malls, shopping centers, and pedestrian streets she manages. This is much more generous than the members of the investment promotion team going out to visit clients one by one. Therefore, when faced with such a big client who has the ability and channels to sell branded cosmetics, manager Diana and William alone are not enough, and Fiona must go in person to negotiate. Chapter 41: The Life Plan of the Richest Mother. Mr. Liu, this client is too important for our investment promotion this time. We can only succeed and not fail. William raised his head and said seriously. The investment promotion of this new brand of cosmetics is the most important development of Jinxiu trading in the next stage, and it is also the first large-scale investment promotion activity since the establishment of this brand. If Song Shiyuan can be successfully won over, it will be a good start. Most businesses will follow the trend. Once they hear that such a large company is cooperating with Jinxiu, it will form a scale effect. It will also be able to leverage the momentum to greatly increase the trust of businesses in Jinxiu, and it will be smoother and easier for businesses to sign contracts. Fiona looked at William with a smile and said, "It's good to have confidence, but don't put too much pressure on yourself." Jinxiu has already built the image of the new brand, established a brand division, and has celebrity spokespersons. It has also done all the necessary logistical support. What kind of results you can achieve depends on luck. I don't believe in luck. Everything depends on human effort. Anyway, I will definitely set a good example for my colleagues in the department. William said in a firm tone. Okay, then I'll leave the focus to you this time. Fiona looked at William expectantly and chuckled. Song Shuyuan and I have been friends for many years, so it's not convenient for me to argue with her about some trivial matters. I'll leave the details to you to follow up. No problem. William patted his chest confidently. Since Fiona and Song Shuyuan are friends, the success rate of this cooperation will naturally be greatly improved. As for what Fiona said, it actually meant that she was responsible for playing the good guy, and he was the bad guy. As women with assets worth tens of billions, it is not appropriate for them to personally negotiate for a few points of profit. Not only does this make the other party seem stingy, but if they get too angry, it may also affect the relationship. So usually they drink tea and chat to keep in touch with each other and leave the negotiations and profit-making to their agents. And this time, William is naturally Fiona's agent. William is very much looking forward to this business cooperation visit. Although he is an investment promotion specialist who has only been in the job for less than half a year and was promoted to supervisor last week, it is certainly difficult for him to compare with a true negotiation expert. But William didn't expect himself to be very good at this. After all, no matter how capable he is, can he compare with the analysis of dozens of actuaries and negotiation geniuses in those top negotiation teams? Therefore, since he took the position of investment promotion director, he has been learning and engaging in more activities. See how this business model works, how cooperation negotiations are conducted, and how leaders do things. These are the survival knowledge that a person must master as soon as possible after entering society. Especially is he really going to inherit that strange mother's business in the future? So, ever since he knew that he had a mother who was the richest person in the world, William's life plan had changed. No longer develop yourself as an ordinary employee, but learn all kinds of useful insights. Employees responsible for execution can be hired with money, but leaders need to improve their own brains. This is going a bit far. Anyway, the key is to learn, gain knowledge, and accumulate experience for future use. The Magic City is less than 200 kilometers away from Linen and can be reached in about 2 hours by car. Chapter 42: Arrival in Linen. Along the way, William was reading Song Shiyuan's information and sorting out his thoughts after the interview. Time passed quickly, and before we knew it, we arrived in Linen City. Because they set out early in the morning, and it was only a little after 10 in the morning, William and his team went directly to the downstairs of Song Shiyuan's company. The office building of this rich woman in linen is in no way inferior to Fiona's. The more than 30-story office building sparkles under the sunlight. The name of the company is Manhwa Group. Song Shiyuan is in her early 40s this year, divorced, and has a daughter named Song Yamin, who is 23 years old this year, just 1 year older than William. Both mother and daughter serve as the top two in the Manhwa Group. In addition to commercial properties such as shopping malls, they also engage in tourism development and real estate. Their business is huge, and their net worth has long exceeded tens of billions. William and Fiona got out of the car and saw a beautiful woman with long legs, thin waist, and fair skin, waving her hand and walking towards them with a smile. Aunt Lou, you are finally here. William's taste for beauty had been greatly raised by Susan recently, and when he saw this beauty, he couldn't help but let his eyes light up and a hint of amazement flashed across his face. This is a beautiful lady who looks charming and elegant. She is wearing a Gucci black chiffon skirt with black high heels with a red base, showing her beauty and sexiness. This should be Song Shiyuan's only daughter, Song Yimin, right? Sure enough, this charming beauty came closer, took Fiona's arm affectionately, looked at William with a smile in her eyes, and was a little surprised. Aunt Lou, it's rare that you would bring a handsome boy with you. Could he be your boyfriend? You're just talking nonsense. Fiona rolled her eyes at her charmingly. Then she stretched out her delicate little hand to pull William over and introduced him. This is William, our Jinxio's investment manager. He came with me to discuss cooperation. Oh! The charming beauty blinked her long and charming eyes, let go of Fiona, and stretched out her slender and soft white hand to William. Hello, Director Su, right? My name is Song Yimin, the general manager of Honghu Group. Hello, Manager Song. I'm William. William extended his hand and shook hers generously, then let go with a smile. Song Yimin chuckled and made a gesture of invitation. Aunt Lou, Manager Sue, let's sit upstairs and talk. Okay. Fiona nodded and took William into the Honghu building. There are many office workers in Hongzhou Company, and you can see many busy people coming in and out along the way. William casually. Manager Sue, you guys came directly from the Magic City, right? Although Linen is also very prosperous, it is still not as good as an international metropolis like the Magic City. William could tell from their conversation that this seemed like idle chat, but in fact they were trying to gather information about their whereabouts. Because the other party wanted to know whether William and his team were only here to visit Honghu, and whether they had other potential customers in Linen. At the same time, it implies that William is an outsider in Shanghai, and the Honghu Group is the local boss in Linen. If they want to cooperate, they hope to gain more benefits. Therefore, William just smiled faintly in response to this first confrontation. Manager Song, you are joking. Although Shanghai is the largest economic center city in China, Linen is also a major economic city. In recent years, the total economic volume has been steadily increasing, which has promoted the rapid growth of Linen enterprises. It is second only to Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. There is a lot of development potential. Chapter 43, Linen Rich Woman. William has always felt that only by understanding people's psychology can one achieve his goals more effectively. Whether it is a business cooperation conversation like this one or a formal negotiation analysis, as long as he can study the psychology of competitors or customers, he can seize the initiative in the conversation. Although he was not sure whether the other party was testing him intentionally, he still did not reveal their itinerary. At the same time, we also use the economy to imply that there are many local tyrants in Linen and we have more choices. If we want to cooperate in a friendly manner, we still have to give conditions that can satisfy us. Song Yimin looked at him with some surprise. She didn't expect that this handsome guy had noticed her temptation and even fought back. Fiona narrowed her charming eyes, with a faint smile in her eyes. Although she already knew William's identity and therefore did not regard him as an ordinary young man, now seeing how perfectly he handled the situation, her impression of him became even better. It is true that like fathers, like sons, like daughters, even though Yang Li and her precious son were separated for so many years before they met, it is still their family's excellent genes. William has been observing Song Yimin's reaction and now finally confirmed that his guess is correct. From this perspective, this cooperation should be a sure thing. At least the other party is obviously interested. Otherwise, they would not test me like this. The only problem is how to distribute the benefits. Thinking of this, William couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It seemed that this investment promotion would have a good start. The elevator soon arrived at the office on the top floor. Song Yimin led William and his group inside and shouted, "Mom, Aunt Lou, and the others are here." A beautiful woman in professional attire stood up from her desk and came towards me with a bright smile on her face. "Fiona, I received your call yesterday, saying you were coming over, and I have been looking forward to your coming. I miss you so much." Fiona hugged her intimately, looked her up and down, and smiled. "Shu Yuan, your figure is getting better and better. Stop teasing me. Isn't your figure getting more and more plump?" Song Shuyuan gently pushed Fiona away, glanced at William past her, and said, "Could it be that you are getting the nourishment of love?" What you said is exactly the same as Minners. No wonder they are mother and daughter. Fiona said coquettishly, turned around and smiled charmingly at William. This is Song Shuyuan I mentioned to you, the president of Honghu Group. Hello, Mr. Song. I'm William, the investment manager of Jinxiu. William greeted politely and handed over his business card. He smiled and continued, if it wasn't for Mr. Liu's introduction, I would have thought you were Mr. Song's sister. He was not complimenting her. The woman in front of him was about the same height as Song Yamin, but her figure was softer and fuller than her daughter's. She had a beautiful face and delicate makeup, and was quite similar to Song Yamin. William hadn't known that she was Song Yamin's mother. He would have thought they were sisters. When Song Shuyuan stretched out her rhinestone-painted hand to take the business card, a faint and unique fragrance emanated from her, and her fox-like charming eyes revealed a hint of smile. Manager Sue is really good at talking. Come and sit down and chat. My mentor should be about the same age as you. You should have common topics. Chapter 44, Rich Lady Song. The president's office is very luxurious, and Song Yamin has already made tea next to it. The two sides sat down around the coffee table, drinking tea and chatting. You guys try this tea. This is this year's Mingqian Longjing tea. I find it quite good. It is said to help digestion and reduce weight, as well as reduce fat around the waist and abdomen. Song Shuyuan smiled, revealing her porcelain white teeth. She picked up the teacup, took a sip, and rubbed her lower abdomen. William subconsciously glanced at her abdomen. Her waist and abdomen were smooth and tight, tightly held by the white shirt. How could he see any fat at all? Sure enough, no matter how good a woman's figure is, she will never be satisfied with her pursuit of beauty. Just like those women who are obviously very thin, but still clamor to lose weight every day. After chatting for a while, Fiona put down her teacup and got down to business. Shuyuan, I heard that your Honghu Group is interested in operating some self-operated stores. Recently, our Jinxiu has just launched a new brand called MyFuya, which includes a variety of products for women and men, covering skincare, makeup, hair care, and hair dyeing, and other fields. It is positioned in the mid to high-end domestic market. I think it is suitable for us to establish a cooperative relationship. William handed the product manual and brochure to Song Shuyuan and Song Yimin at the right time. Song Shuyuan placed the album on her slender legs, opened it and looked at it, then said with a smile, at present, we at Honghu do have some spare funds that we would like to use to do something. I have learned about your company's new products before, but I don't know if your new brand can be successful. There are many cosmetics brands in the industry that suddenly disappeared. William introduced them calmly. Mr. Song, Manager Song, I understand your concerns about this, but we at Jinxiu attach great importance to this brand and will continue to invest heavily in research and development. We are already preparing the next generation of replacement products for anti-aging skincare advantages. After a brief introduction, William began to educate them on the current status of the cosmetics market. The competitiveness of domestic cosmetics brands has been continuously improving, and their market share has also shown a sustained growth trend. It is estimated that the market size this year will reach 579.1 billion yuan. Let's focus on introducing Jinxiu's new brand and its competitive advantages and effect differences compared with similar competing products. The strategy William used was also very simple, which was to play to one's strengths and avoid one's weaknesses. After introducing Jinxiu's new cosmetics, William gave Song Shuyuan a brief introduction to Jinxiu's best-selling cosmetics on the market and Jinxiu's market share in this category. Many consumers recognize brands, and if a cosmetic product sells well, consumers will know the company behind this brand. They will become potential consumers of new products and are likely to be driven by promotional advertisements to choose to buy new products for a try. Finally, William also revealed the future development plan for this new brand of cosmetics. After meeting domestic market demand, it will also focus on overseas markets and seek breakthroughs in emerging markets. Thanks to William's almost photographic memory, he is well-versed in industry information and can easily access various data. Song Shuyuan and Song Yimin nodded repeatedly. They didn't know that William had only been the supervisor for a week. They thought it was because of his personal qualities and abilities as well as his serious attitude towards work that he was able to memorize the data without a script. Chapter 45. First Confrontation. Fiona was surprised. She looked at William with a different look in her eyes. Was he still the young man who had just been the head of investment promotion for a week? How could he be more familiar with industry data and information than she was? I can only sigh that this handsome guy who has given me so many surprises belongs to Yongli. He is worthy of being the biological son of the Queen of Magic City. Song Shiyuan was obviously impressed by William's words, which showed her familiarity with the domestic cosmetics market and her confidence in the market prospects, and further strengthened her inner thoughts. Without hiding her intention, she smiled and said, I am very interested in your cooperation. How about this, Director Su? Please discuss the details with my daughter. It's rare for your CEO Lu to come to my company, so I will show her around. This was something that had been envisioned a long time ago. William smiled calmly and said, no problem. I will discuss it in detail with Manager Song. Fiona also stood up and winked at William subtly to show her praise, then twisted her waist and left the office with Song Shiyuan. Both women are of mature age, with plump figures and pretty faces. When they walk, there is always a charm between their long legs and small waists. However, William quickly withdrew his gaze and fixed his eyes on Song Yimin, who was sitting next to him. Song Yimin seemed a little unnatural. She smoothed her hair and giggled. Although you saw through my temptation before, I am still very happy to meet a good opponent. When it comes to managing a company, the most important thing is these experiences. Manager Song is very capable since he can help President Song manage such a large company. I'm also looking forward to this cooperation with Manager Song. William took a sip of tea and put on a serious expression. Okay, I won't be around the bush with you. I want to have the exclusive rights to sell this new Manhwa cosmetics in the linen market. Song Yimin said to William directly. Manager Song has a big appetite. William narrowed his eyes. His gaze fell on her bright red lips, smiled, and said, although I also know the strength of Honghu and linen, it is indeed no problem for you to operate this market. But I have said before that linen is developing very fast, and there are always markets in various regions that Honghu cannot cover. If you want to strive for the exclusive operating rights of linen, you also need to give your company's commitment and guarantee, right? Song Yimin raised the corners of her mouth slightly and said with a chuckle, I don't deny that there are markets in linen that we haven't covered yet, but you can't deny that the busiest roads in the city are basically covered by our shopping centers, large shopping malls, and pedestrian streets. As for those that are not covered, they are just some streets and towns with poor traffic. Since your Myfuya is positioned as a mid to high-end brand, the consumer group must be more concentrated in bustling places. Do you think there is a more suitable partner for you than us? William had a faint smile on his face and calmly pointed his finger at the Jiangnan map that had just been spread on the coffee table and continued to speculate. I remember that in addition to commercial real estate and linen, Honghu also has some industries in the entire Jiangnan, including the Magic City. Could it be that Manager Song is not interested in these areas? Song Yimin looked at William talking confidently. Her beautiful eyes twinkled, and after a moment of silence, she said, you should know that in addition to your Jinxiu Myfuya, several other cosmetics companies have also launched new products this year. Chapter 4600 Stores Plan. William just smiled softly when he heard her words. Several cosmetics brands have indeed launched new products this year, but they lack confidence in the prospects of the domestic market, which will restrict the expansion of these brands in the domestic market, which is very fatal to your business operations. I think that apart from our Myfuya, there are no new products in China that can compete with foreign brands in the short term, and there are more than one company in Jiangnan province that can compete with Honghu. They should be very interested in taking the opportunity to intervene in the linen market, or even swallow up the entire linen, right? Song Yimin was obviously hurt by his words, but she couldn't object to this obvious fact. No wonder Aunt Lu gave him the management of the investment promotion department. William carefully with her beautiful eyes. Let me put it this way. What do I need to agree to in order for you to hand over the linen market to me? It would be best if we can also occupy market share in other urban areas of Hangzhou and Huzhou. Seeing that she had given in, William couldn't help but clench his fist to celebrate his victory. This client is really crucial. As long as we can win over this mother and daughter in Hangzhou Lake, it will trigger a chain reaction, making it easier to make a breakthrough in the investment promotion work in the entire Jiangnan region. So, we quickly struck while the iron was hot and said, since you, Honghu, have decided to create this new brand, you should do your best to seize the opportunity first, so that you can achieve a stunning effect. As long as Honghu can agree to open 100 stores in linen within 3 months, then we, Jinxiu, will give you the exclusive operation of the linen market. Even if you, Honghu, want to open stores in other cities, in the future, our company can also provide you with the operating rights. 100 stores open on the same day in 3 months. Song Yimin directly pointed out the key point. William smiled and said, that's right. According to the time calculation, it is the Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day holiday. If we can seize this period to market the 100 store plan well, we will definitely be able to grab a lot of market share. It depends on whether manager Song has the courage to do so. Song Yimin naturally knew that the opening of a new store required a gimmick. This 100-store plan was indeed a very eye-catching plan, but the funds required for the entire plan, including publicity expenses, would exceed 10 billion. In the end, Song Yimin bit her red lips, looked at William, and said firmly, "I agree to your condition, but Jinxiu has to give us a more favorable supply discount." "No problem." William was in a good mood, and he chuckled and took the initiative to extend his hand. "Manager Song, happy cooperation. It's a pleasure working with you." Song Yimin stretched out her delicate little hand and shook his. She looked at William's handsome face with her beautiful eyes and blushed slightly. In all the business conversations she had encountered so far, there were not many people who could force her to give in. The man in front of her was the first one. She has seen many young talents at home and abroad, but she feels that the man in front of her has a different vibe and a sunny smile. In short, he is quite special. It seems that I still have a lot to learn from my mother. When Fiona and Song Shuyuan, two beautiful mature women, returned to the office again, William and Song Yimin have even negotiated the brand supply discount from Afuya. Chapter 47, The Greatest Confidence. Generally speaking, it is normal for cosmetics agents to have a discount of around 50%. But in the field of mid to high-end cosmetics, the purchase price may be between 40% and 10% off, depending on the market price and the reputation of the merchant. Therefore, this time, because of Song Yimin's concession, William also appropriately gave her a lower discount within his authority, and the supply discount for all Hangzhou self-operated stores was given to 43%. This was the result that both parties were satisfied with after constant debate. For cosmetics with a retail price of 100 yuan, Jinxiu Trading only pays 43 yuan to Hanghu Group, which leaves a large enough profit margin. Even if we offer discounts or buy more get more free promotions when the new store in Hangzhou and Huzhou opens, we can guarantee that there will still be a lot of profit after deducting the store costs. It's no wonder that Fiona and Song Shuyuan didn't come down to negotiate. Talking so much for a discount of 0.1 or 2 percentage points is quite degrading for their status. At noon, Song Shuyuan naturally treated everyone to a meal as the host. On the way to the hotel, after reading the preliminary agreement handed over by William, Fiona looked up in surprise and stared at William for a long time before she smiled and said, "Diana really recommended a good candidate to me. If I hadn't known that you had only been the head of investment promotion for a week, I would have thought you were a veteran in the industry. Not only did you negotiate the cooperation, but you also opened 100 stores in 3 months, and the supply discount was not the lowest price within your scope of authority. You performed really well." Maybe William's promotion was due to Yang Li's relationship and was a matter of luck, but now Fiona has come to believe that William has the ability and strength to secure the position of investment director. After all, he can now handle the cooperation negotiations with Hanghu Group with ease, let alone potential customers who are weaker than Hanghu. And how many places in the whole of Jiangnan can compare with Hangzhou? Therefore, after this cooperation experience with Hanghu, the subsequent investment promotion work will be easier for William. William pretended to be embarrassed and said, "Boss Liu, please don't flatter me. I'm just leaning on a big tree for shade. If Jinxiu Commerce hadn't endorsed me, I wouldn't have the confidence to discuss cooperation with Song Yimin." "Oh, you're still being modest. You haven't seen what those young talents who negotiated cooperation with Minner are like. Either they were suppressed by Minner, or they pretended to be generous and made crazy concessions. They are second-generation rich people who don't take business seriously at all." Fiona did not hesitate to speak with her words and looked at him with a smile. William could only smile without saying anything. As for those so-called young talents that Fiona mentioned, they were probably concerned about Hang Hu's ability, or they just wanted to seduce Song Yimin, so they behaved like this. In fact, for William, the biggest confidence that enabled him to handle himself well in front of Song Yimin came from that strange biological mother. Because even if he doesn't do the job well, he still has a way out. Although William does not consider himself as Yang Li's son now, he will eventually be influenced by her and his behavior. "I am no longer alone like before, without anyone to rely on, and have to live my life on thin ice, fearing that I will be fired at any time if I don't do well in something. Anyway, you will be less concerned about people and things, and you can express your ideas freely. You will also become more confident and will not be hesitant." Chapter 48. Yang Li misses her son. Not long after, the car stopped at Linen's long-famous restaurant, Fanhai Diaoyutai Hotel, Yuyuan Chinese restaurant. This restaurant specializes in Hangzhou cuisine. It is said that some of the utensils used are configured according to the standards once used by the emperor and Cixi, giving you a truly royal experience. Just as William and Fiona got out of the car and walked into the restaurant accompanied by Song Shuyuan and her daughter. Inside a low-key Mercedes-Benz on the roadside, Yang Li was sitting in the car, staring at William through the window until he completely disappeared from her sight. Then she sighed softly in frustration. Today she ran from Shanghai to Linen just to have a look at William. After all, this is his closest and most flesh and blood son. And because of what happened that year, the mother and son were separated for 21 years. Although the mother and son have not yet recognized each other as their relatives, how could the mother not miss her precious son? So, she wanted to come and see what he was doing and see how his day was. Aunt Yu, I just received a message from Aunt Lu. I heard that the young master was very powerful this time. Even Minner was forced to give in and had no choice but to accept the conditions proposed by Yang. Susan smiled and held up her mobile phone to report the good news to Yang Li. Yang Li collected her thoughts, suppressed her longing, casually took the phone and looked at it, and occasionally a smile would appear on the corner of her mouth unconsciously. There are so many amazing people in this world, but my Yanger is the only one. I never care about his abilities. No matter what kind of person he is or what he does, I think he is great and perfect. In my eyes, my Yanger is the most outstanding and smartest child in the world, and the most precious baby in my heart. Love is something that makes no sense. Because William is Yang Li's biological son, she would like to give him all the best love in the world. That's true. In my heart, the young master is the most perfect. Even when he is in a daze, I still think he is so handsome and I love him so much. As long as our young master is healthy and lives a happy life, that's enough. Susan nodded in agreement when she heard Aunt Yu's words. Some people are just like this. They are born to be loved unconditionally by someone. Yang Li and Susan never take any man in the world seriously, except William. In their eyes, he is different from others. They will be intoxicated by William, they will sigh because of William, and they will toss and turn in sleep because of William. They don't need William to have a good character or how talented he is. He didn't even have to do anything to win all the love from Yang Li and Susan. Therefore, Yang Li and Susan love William, not because he is excellent, but because he is Yang Li's biological son. So they love him, and there is no need for any reason. Then no matter what kind of person he is, they will think he is good in every way. Susan tilted her head and looked at Yang Li, who was staring out the car window in a daze, and said jokingly with a smile, Aunt Yu, why did you only let Aunt Lu know that the young master is your son, but didn't tell Aunt Song and Minner about this? Otherwise, Minner would probably throw herself at Yang like a crazy fan. After all, the Honghu group relied on Yang Li's power to gain a foothold in Linen, and she also helped her seize the family group. Chapter 49. At Your Mercy. Yang Li also has her own personal shares in the Honghu group, and she is definitely someone that Song Shuyuan and her daughter want to curry favor with. Yang Li's noble phoenix eyes flashed with a trace of pity. Let your Aunt Lu know. That's because we need her to help us cooperate. But if your Aunt Song and Minner know, it's like everyone is acting for my Yang. I don't like this. Susan held Yang Li's arm and sighed admiringly. Aunt Yu, you really dote on the young master. You consider everything so carefully. Yang Li pinched the girl's face and smiled slightly. You are so shameless, little girl. You stayed over at Yang's place last night. Was it fun? What's fun about this? The young master didn't even sleep with me. He went out to sleep on the sofa. When he woke up, he left a note saying he was going to work and didn't care about me anymore. Susan complained to Aunt Yang. So, you overslept this morning? I thought you weren't feeling well today and wouldn't come back. Yang Li said with a teasing smile. Aunt Yu, this is none of my business. I quietly left the door open for the young master last night and didn't lock it. I thought he would come in, but I waited for half the night and there was no movement. So I overslept. Susan said aggrievedly. You slept in my son's bed and still feel aggrieved. Yang Li poked her head with her fragrant fingertips. Susan's beautiful face suddenly felt a little embarrassed, blushing and saying, Actually, there is one more thing. The young master's bed smells like him, and it is so comfortable to sleep on. I slept until after 9 o'clock without realizing it. Yang Li looked at her with some envy and said with complicated eyes, It's about time to change Yanger's house. I feel bad for him living in that house. Then when the young master comes back, I'll take him to the Rose Garden Villa district to pick one, Susan suggested. Well, I'll leave this matter to you. Yang Lie's gaze couldn't help but drift out of the car window again. Yang, Mom misses you so much. In the private room of the Royal Garden Chinese restaurant, William and his group sat down as host and guest. Song Shiyuan had heard about the previous negotiation process from her daughter. She looked at William with even more appreciation and raised her red wine glass with a smile. Manager Su is really someone who can accomplish great things. I just learned from your CEO, Lu, that you have only been the head of investment promotion for less than a week, and you are 1 year younger than our Minner. Why don't you just come to Honghu to help me instead of going back to Jinxiu? Fiona pushed her lightly and scolded her with a smile. How can you poach people in front of me? You are too blatant. William smiled and raised his glass to clink with Song Shiyuan's. Boss Song, thank you for your compliment. Boss Lu has been very kind to me. I am counting on Boss Lu to give me a bonus after this mission is over. How can I forget my roots? He would not take the words of this rich woman from Linen seriously. The jokes at the dinner table were just to liven up the atmosphere. And even if Song Shiyuan really meant this, William would not change jobs just like that. Otherwise, after such an incident in his career, who would dare to trust and use him with confidence in the future? Fiona couldn't help but laugh when she heard William's words. She smiled and said, "That's right. We at Jinxiu don't treat our meritorious officials unfairly. Don't try to take advantage of our director Sue anymore. Really, don't you want to consider it?" Song Shiyuan seemed to be serious. She slowly put the red wine next to her sexy lips, but her eyes were still fixed on William. If you come to work in Honghu, maybe Minner and I will listen to you and let you do whatever you want. Chapter 50. Gaining both people and money. This was a bit ambiguous, causing Song Yimin, who was standing next to her, to blush and say, "Mom, what are you talking about?" William took a sip of wine, letting it slide down his throat, and smiled calmly. "I hope to be able to cooperate with Honghu in all aspects. Jinxiu and Honghu are both very powerful companies. The combination of the two strong companies will definitely bring out a different style." He was not the kind of person who would be flustered when faced with temptation, and he keenly felt that the other party was testing him with a hint of temptation. Sure enough, Song Shiyuan's smile became even more charming, and she couldn't help but chuckled and said, "You really can't underestimate young people. Then I wish Director Sue a quick promotion and more cooperation with us in other projects in the future. Thank you for your advice." William smiled and raised his glass to toast. In fact, on the way here, Song Shiyuan felt from her daughter's tone that she had some affection for William. After all, mother and daughter are connected by heart. Moreover, her daughter has been dismissive of those so-called young talents in recent years, but just now she praised William in the car. Naturally, Song Shiyuan couldn't help but think too much about this, for she was afraid that the other party was after her money, or even wanted both her money and her life. After all, after so many years in the business world, Song Shiyuan has seen all kinds of outstanding young people, but no matter how outstanding they are, she would not be interested in them. After all, with her status, there are too many young talents who deliberately show themselves off for various purposes. However, since this was about her daughter, she couldn't help but pay attention. Moreover, when Song Shiyuan took Fiona to visit the company, she vaguely felt from Fiona's attitude and words that this young and handsome man was not just an ordinary supervisor working for Jinxiu. After all, she has known Fiona for many years and naturally understands her temperament and past. Fiona in the past, she had never taken her male subordinates on business trips or even ridden in the same car with them. That's why Song Shiyuan and Song Yimin laughed and teased her at first, thinking that Fiona had some ambiguous relationship with this male subordinate. But now it seems that the two parties do not have such a relationship, which is even more strange. In short, it seemed that this manager Sue was hiding some secrets and stories, which aroused Song Shiyuan's curiosity about him. Not long after, sumptuous Hangzhou dishes were served one after another. After a few drinks, the atmosphere became lively and the topic started to develop casually. "Manager Sue, you've been staying in Linen these days, right? How about letting Minner accompany you for a good walk?" Song Shiyuan looked at William with a smile. Her plump legs crossed at an angle showing the soft lines and the charm and elegance of a mature woman. Since she had dispelled some of her doubts, just now, she no longer objected to her daughter making friends with him. She had a good impression of this young man and wanted to dig deeper into the secrets of this young man. Given her status and her failed marriage, it was impossible for her to find a partner she could trust, so she never planned to remarry. However, she did not want her daughter to be like herself, affected by her failed marriage, which led to her having few friends of the opposite sex. If this continues, She is really worried that her daughter will end up alone like her. Chapter 51 Promise. William glanced at the beautiful Song Yimin and found that she also had some expectation in her eyes, so he thought for a while and said, I have work to do during this period, and my colleagues in the department are visiting clients in other cities in Jiangnan. After I finish my work, I can take a good look around Linen. It's settled then. I'll take you around Linen and investigate the market at the same time. Song Yimin smiled and raised her rosy lips. She was born with a seductive sexiness and charm. Both the mother and daughter are beautiful women with good figures, looks, and temperament. Even their charm is exactly the same. I can only say that they are worthy of being mother and daughter. William raised his glass and clinked it with Song Yimin, saying, Then I'll trouble you, Manager Song. Fiona watched William's ability to talk and laugh freely, nodded in appreciation, with a charming smile on her face. I suddenly remembered something. Manager Su came with me today, but I will be returning to Shanghai soon. Shu Yuan, can you lend me a car for Manager Su to use during this time? He has to travel a lot. Although the company also has an investment promotion team coming to Linen to assist William, and there will definitely be no shortage of vehicles, she still made this request. Using this kind of mutual help to quickly build a closer relationship between William and Honghu. This is how adults interact. We are not afraid of owing favors to others, but we are afraid of not mentioning it. The more we are afraid of bothering the other party, the more distant the two sides will become. Of course, it's no problem. It's just a car. We have plenty of it. Song Shuyuan happily agreed. Her fingertips with rhinestone nails gently twirled the red wine glass. She turned her head and gave the opportunity to Song Amin. Minner, I'll leave this to you. It will be easier for you young people to communicate. Okay, I'll have someone send a car over later. Song Yimin smiled at William. Although her beautiful eyes were not intended to seduce, they still exuded a different kind of charm. Thank you so much, Mr. Song and Manager Song. You have helped me a lot. William looked into Song Yimin's long and charming eyes and expressed his gratitude politely. Fortunately, during the summer vacation in college, he and his classmates took the driving test. Otherwise, they would not be able to drive even if they borrowed a car. We are all partners. It's just a piece of cake. Song Yimin blinked, picked up her red purse, and sent a message to ask someone to arrange a car to come over. After having a good meal and a few drinks, the group returned to the Hangzhou Lake building. William and Song Yimin continued to follow the agreement they had reached in the morning and added some other details. For example, for the advertising and marketing expenses of the 100-store plan, William and Song Yimin also negotiated that both companies would bear 50% each. After all, this can be regarded as increasing the popularity and brand value of the new brand Manhua, so Jinxiu still needs to provide half of the subsidy. As for the remaining franchise deposit and the agency fees in the Linen area, they seem insignificant compared to the billion-dollar capital cost of hundreds of stores. After discussing these details, they agreed to sign the contract formally at the investment promotion conference to be held in Linen, and then William and Fiona got up and said goodbye. Song Shuyuan and her daughter personally sent them downstairs. Song Yimin took the car keys from the female secretary, walked to William with a fragrant breeze, and pointed to the black Mercedes-Benz Maybach parked at the door. Chapter 52, The Right Decision. Manager Su, considering that you will have to meet various clients later, I took the initiative to pick a more formal business car for you. If you are not used to driving, feel free to ask me to change the car. William looked at the charming girl with a smile on her face and her long hair blowing in the breeze, shook his head and smiled. No need to change, you picked the right one. See you another day. If you need any help, feel free to call me. Song Yimin smiled and winked, then handed him the car keys. No problem. William also smiled and blinked, making a phone call gesture, then opened the car door, said goodbye to Song Shuyuan and Fiona, and finally waved to Song Yimin, then got in the car and started the car. He also has to find the investment promotion team assigned to Linen to gather together. The work has just begun, and today is just the first step to success. Fiona looked at William's departing car, glanced at Song Shuyuan meaningfully, and said with a smile, Shuyuan, I have to say that you made a very correct decision today. Oh, are you talking about the new cooperation between our two companies? Song Shuyuan didn't quite understand what she meant. Yes. Fiona covered her wet and sexy lips, giggled, twisted her mature and sexy body like a beauty, got in her car, and waved goodbye to her. Song Shuyuan shook her head and laughed. This devil, we've been friends for so many years, but she's still telling riddles in front of me. I really should let Queen Yang teach her a lesson. On the other side, William drove a Maybach straight to the hotel where the linen investment promotion team was staying. Jinxiu treats its employees very well. For example, for the expenses of this business trip, the finance department will deposit the budget into bank cards in advance and distribute them to employees on business trips. Of course, this business trip expense is an advance loan. After returning to the company, you will need to fill out a business trip itinerary and invoice to offset it. If you spend it without reason, it will be deducted from your salary. As the investment promotion director, William received a budget card with $100,000. The hotels he stayed in during business trips had the highest standards of luxury suites, while ordinary employees could only stay in standard rooms at best. This is a microcosm of the social class stratification, including expenses for food, communication, etc., which will be allocated corresponding treatment according to different levels. William came to the luxurious suite that his colleague had booked for him, and first looked at the battle reports sent from various regions in the group. The first day was basically spent visiting potential customers who had been communicated with over the phone at the company, but the results were not great. After all, some areas were quite far away, and many people only arrived at the areas they were responsible for in the afternoon. William checked the general situation and announced the 100-store plan that he had just reached with Honghu Group. Colleagues in the group were naturally very surprised. Even those who had already signed several clients were dumbfounded by such a result. After all, according to their plan, it would be good to gain something today, but they didn't expect that Manager Su had already taken over 100 stores. Boss, you are awesome. With Honghu Group as an example, we will be more confident when introducing it to customers. That's right. Manager Su really got off to a great start this time. This will be very helpful in promoting customer signings. William did not get carried away. After encouraging his colleagues, he let everyone continue with their respective work arrangements. At present, the linen market has been exclusively handed over to Honghu for operation, so he also has to recall the investment promotion team here and rush to other cities to help. Chapter 53, Linen Investment Promotion Conference. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window of the suite, William looked at the scenery outside the window, lit a cigarette, and was organizing his thoughts. Based on the information we have detected so far, Fiona and Song Shuyuan do have a very good personal relationship. In this way, in order to facilitate their future expansion in the Jiangnan market, the provincial agency of Jiangnan can actually be handed over to Honghu. But that's all a matter for the future. At least after the 100 stores are opened and Honghu sees the profits and prospects, they will consider expansion. But after having this idea, William naturally had to adjust the investment promotion work of the entire Jiangnan district in advance, so as to allow Honghu to have more say in Jiangnan province as much as possible. Busy days always go by so fast. In a blink of an eye, William had been traveling around various cities in Jiangnan for more than 10 days. During this period, because of the cooperation case with Honghu Group, potential customers in Jiangnan have also shown great interest in Jinxiu's new brand of cosmetics, so the number of customers negotiated with has exceeded expectations. After all, the economic trends of most cities in the country follow those of the provincial capitals. If linen can make Jinxiu's Manhwa popular, other cities will also quickly become popular. So, on June 29th, William drove back to linen alone. Because in 2 days, Jinxiu Trading will hold a large investment promotion conference in linen. William will come early to help manager Diana prepare for the investment promotion conference. Other members of the investment promotion team will also come here tomorrow and inform those customers to formally sign the contract at the Linen Investment Promotion Conference on July 1st. After William arrived in Linen, he first called manager Gao to ask about her location, and then drove over to find her. Linen New Century Grand Hotel is the largest 5-star business hotel in the whole of Jiangnan, and is also the venue for the investment promotion conference held by Hotian Jinxiu Commerce. William met Diana again in the presidential suite of the hotel. William, you're great. I didn't expect you to fight so well in your first battle after taking office. Diana took William and sat him down in the living room of the suite with a pleased smile on her still charming face. This is all thanks to President Liu, who gave us a good start on the first day. Otherwise, the subsequent investment promotion work would not have been so smooth. William smiled modestly. That's not what President Liu said. She said that you were the only one who negotiated with the general manager of Hanghu, and even if Hanghu was interested in cooperating at the beginning, it only planned to open a dozen stores to test the market. It had no plan to open so many stores. It was because you controlled the general manager of Hang, who that they agreed to the plan of opening 100 stores in 3 months. Diana handed over a cup of coffee and said to William with appreciation. She was busy preparing for the investment promotion conference today. She was wearing a professional dress, a simple and elegant white shirt, revealing a small patch of fair skin and a hip skirt and flesh-colored stockings. She looked like a beauty. However, after seeing beautiful mature women like Fiona and Song Shuyuan, as well as the stunning beauty of his own strange mother, William did not have any special feelings towards Manager Gao. So, he just took the coffee and smiled. Well, this is also thanks to Manager Gao's introduction. Otherwise, I would not have this opportunity. That's great. You're still not arrogant even after winning a battle. Diana patted his shoulder and continued happily. You've worked hard during this period. You can take a 2-day break. Leave the investment promotion conference to me. President Liu has told me that you have an appointment with the general manager of Honghu, so you can't let him down. Chapter 54, Socializing by Order. Manager Gao. How can I use work time to do personal things? I can wait until the investment promotion conference is over before keeping the appointment. William was a little amused. This is not a personal matter. Socializing with business partners is a normal part of the job. We have to reimburse you for the expenses. Diana winked and teased. William was about to say something when his cell phone rang. He took it out and looked at the caller ID. Okay, Manager Gao, I'll go socialize as ordered. William smiled bitterly and raised his cell phone at Diana. Diana naturally saw the words Song Yamin on it and said jokingly, as long as you can come back tomorrow night to attend the investment promotion meeting the day after tomorrow, I will take care of the rest for you. After hearing what she said, William stopped being polite and stood up to say goodbye while walking out and answering the phone. Manager Song, good afternoon. Manager Sue, when will you return to Linen? Have you forgotten your promise to me? Song Yamin's sexy voice came from the phone. William couldn't help but think of Song Yamin's charming figure. He smiled and said, how could I forget? I just arrived in Linen today. Where are you? I'll come find you. That's great. Come to Honghu. I'll wait for you at the company. No problem. We'll talk after we meet. Bye. Well, bye. After hanging up the phone, although William didn't want to be too narcissistic, he always felt that his attraction to beautiful women seemed to be much greater than before. Or is it because he is more confident now than before? The source of his greater confidence and self-confidence came from that strange biological mother. William has been busy with work during this period. He would still think of that noble and dignified figure when it was late at night or when he was sending messages to Susan. I don't know how she is doing recently. William felt inexplicably melancholy until the elevator door opened with a ding. He then shook his head and walked in, went downstairs and drove to Honghu Building. New Century Grand Hotel is not far from Honghu Building, about 20 minutes away. Not long after, William drove a Maybach to the downstairs of Hanghu. Just when he took out his cell phone to call Song Yamin. Through the car window, he saw Song Yamin walking straight towards him. I thought you were really going to stand me up. Song Yamin opened the passenger door and sat in with a smile, her long curly hair swaying gently. William smelled the fragrance floating over, turned his head and looked at her, smiling. I dare not stand anyone up but Manager Song. You are my benefactor in this investment promotion work. When he first met Song Yamin, William might have been more attracted by the maturity and elegance of her mother Song Shuyuan. But seeing her again at this time, I can't help but sigh that I have such a beautiful mother. As a daughter, Song Yamin is also a beautiful beauty. She is tall, with a pretty face and a pair of long, snow-white legs. She is wearing a pink floral dress. Her slender waist outlines her sexy curves. She has a smile on her lips, and her watery eyes are very charming. Then could you please stop calling me Manager Song? This isn't a formal work setting. Song Yamin put on her seatbelt, leaned back in her seat, and gave him a scolding look. Her two slender thighs pressed tightly together. Chapter 55, I don't trust any man. Sure. William started the car, tilted his head, and asked her with a smile. I just don't know what to call you, Song Yamin? Yamin? Or Xiaomin? Song Yamin burst out laughing, giggling. You're still Xiaomin. You're 1 year younger than me. I'm already giving you a break by not asking you to call me Sister Man. Then I'll call you Yamin. William took over and asked her. Where are we going first? I'm not familiar with Linen. Although his hometown is also a rural area in the south of the Yangtze River, he has never been to Linen. This is his first time here for investment promotion work. The West Lake is quite beautiful in this season, but let's go have dinner first. Song Yamin leaned over, stretched out her slender little hand with a mix of red and pink manicure, and entered the destination into the car's navigation. William naturally had no objection. He just followed the host's wishes and listened to her arrangements. Linen Luelu is an old brand of linen and one of the most famous Hangzhou cuisine restaurants. Located on the shore of the beautiful West Lake, It has a long history and has hosted many celebrities, heads of state, and numerous foreign dignitaries. Of course, this was William's first time here. Looking at the bustling Luelu, business was indeed booming. If you are looking for a place to eat when you are out of town and are not familiar with the local environment, it is best to choose a restaurant with many customers. After all, only good food can attract repeat customers. If the restaurant is deserted and even locals don't patronize it, then there is naturally a problem. Song Yimin had already reserved a seat in advance. William parked the car and followed the waiter's instructions to a private room. The dishes in this restaurant are all very good, especially the signature Westlake vinegar fish, dompa pork, longjing shrimp, and beggar's chicken. The taste is very authentic. When I had friends come here before, I would bring them here to try. If there is anything you are not used to, we will ask the waiter to come and change some other dishes. After Song Yimin ordered the dishes, she poured tea for William and introduced them to him with a smile. Whatever, I'm not picky about food anyway. William glanced at her slender and round long legs under her skirt calmly, then looked at her charming face and asked with interest. Generally, when we call each other friends, we should actually call each other boyfriends, right? You brought me here to eat. Aren't you afraid that he will misunderstand? What boyfriend? Song Yimin raised her fist and gently hit his shoulder, covering her red lips with a smile that shook her body. My friends are all girls, okay? Besides, if I had a boyfriend, I would never eat alone with the opposite sex. You are quite considerate of your future boyfriend's feelings. It's true that any man would feel uneasy if a beauty like you were to have dinner alone with a man. William admired her and said with a smile. Song Yimin pulled a chair over and sat down next to William. She looked at him with interest with her watery eyes and asked, "What about your girlfriend? She won't be jealous, will she?" William thought of Susan unconsciously, but the two of them had not yet confirmed their boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, so he waved his hand in a nonchalant manner. "How can I have a girlfriend? Otherwise, I would definitely introduce you to her. It's a deal then. Next time you come to Linen, it will be almost the best time to eat Yangqing Lake Harry crabs. I'll treat you to a meal then." Song Yimin chuckled for a long time. Chapter 56, Visiting Westlake. The food that had just been ordered was also delivered one after another. William and Song Yimin chatted while eating. They did not talk about business, but only about topics among friends, and they got to know each other better. Song Yimin's mother, Song Shuyuan, divorced when she was very young and lived with her alone, so she has always taken her mother's surname, Song, since she was a child. She attended Seven Sisters College, one of the 7 traditional elite liberal arts colleges in the northeastern United States. These colleges only admit female students and have trained many famous alumni. After graduating last year, I returned to China to help my mother manage the affairs of the Honghu Group. Therefore, the cooperation with Jinxiu Trading this time can be regarded as a project given to her by her mother for her experience. William naturally did not hide his situation. Apart from the fact that he had just recently found out that he had a strange biological mother, he told Song Yimin everything in general. Song Yimin's attitude towards him did not change just because he grew up in the countryside. Maybe for her, who is materially wealthy, the feeling of getting along with others is more important than the so-called being well-matched. So, we are half fellow villagers. Song Yimin smiled, picked up the teacup, and took a sip. Her lipstick-coated lips looked a little sexy. I guess so. William smiled slightly. Speaking of which, although he grew up with his father in a rural area in the south of the Yangtze River, according to his strange biological mother, shouldn't he also be a native of Shanghai? After dinner, it had already darkened and the lights came on. Linen, a city with both historical heritage and modern vitality, also showed a unique charm and exuded charming brilliance. William and Song Yimin came out of Luelu, bought 2 cups of milk tea on the roadside, and began to take a slow walk along the West Lake. For many people who travel to Linen, the West Lake is definitely a must-see attraction. Over the years, the West Lake has almost become Linen's tourist card and cultural symbol. Especially now that it is not a holiday, there are not many tourists, and the hustle and bustle of the day has gradually faded away, making the West Lake more graceful and tender. In order to show her hospitality, Song Yimin chartered a pleasure boat and took William on a night cruise on the West Lake. TSK, TSK. There are only 2 of us on the boat. Aren't you afraid that I will kidnap you, a rich little woman? William turned sideways and threatened Song Yimin, who was leaning on the railing, sipping milk tea. The pleasure boats sail slowly on the West Lake. Neon lights flicker. The breeze blows on your face, and classic landscapes, such as the autumn moon over the calm lake and the three pools mirroring the moon show their unique charm under the lights. Song Yamin took her bag and chuckled. These are all the things I have on me. If you want them, I'll give them to you. Don't kidnap me, okay? William laughed. Then I will wait until you get home and then kidnap you. The two gradually became familiar with each other and were able to joke around with each other. Men have many desires, but many of them are suppressed by life. During this period, William became more confident and calm because of his background, and his personality also changed a little. No longer blush when talking to Susan like before. Song Yimin's smile became brighter and brighter, and she said charmingly, "You are quite brave, little brother. Is it tonight when the moon is shining, and you should come to get it?" William had naturally heard about Chu Liuxiang's attempt to steal the letter left by the White Jade Beauty, so he pretended to be surprised. "You mean, you want me to go to your house tonight and steal you away?" Chapter 57, Legend of White Snake. "If you dare to come, my mother will break your legs." Song Yimin lifted her hair that was messed up by the lake breeze and gave him a coquettish look. The lake breeze lifted Song Yimin's skirt, further highlighting her graceful figure. "Is Aunt Song so cruel?" William pretended to be scared and took a sip of milk tea to calm his nerves. Song Yimin looked at him with a smile. "Yes, my mother is the best at controlling energetic little guys like you." "Yimin, I noticed that you are still an old driver in private." William looked at her with a changed look. Song Yimin laughed and said, "Don't you want to know the real me?" "Of course I want to be real with you." William looked at her teasingly while sipping his milk tea. "Hate it." Song Yimin felt that she was being teased and raised her high heels to step on him. William reacted quickly and dodged. However, Song Yimin missed a step, let out a cry, and her body involuntarily fell into his arms. William quickly reached out and held her slender waist. It was so soft and slender that a pleasant fragrance filled his nose. "Oh, I'm sorry I got your clothes wet." After Song Yimin stood firm, she found that the milk tea she was holding had spilled out and all over William. "It's okay. It's hot and it will dry in a while." William calmly let go of her slender waist, took a step back, and checked his condition. He was working on investment promotion during this period, and he wore a white shirt and casual trousers every day. So he was so busy enjoying the beauty of the woman in his arms that he didn't notice that his white shirt had been soaked by the milk tea and turned brown. Song Yimin's pretty face turned slightly red. It was obvious that she was a little shy because it was the first time that a man hugged her waist and she bumped into his arms. However, she still pretended to be calm and indifferent and quickly took out a silk embroidered handkerchief from her bag to wipe the milk tea from his chest. But the faint outline of William's chest muscles was reflected, which made her blush even more. The emerald green waves of the West Lake sparkle under the flashing neon lights, and the scenery of the lake and the mountains complement each other, as if stars are scattered and rippling among them. Boats come and go on the lake, reflecting the prosperity of both sides. The Leifeng Pagoda, which has gone through thousands of years of vicissitudes, looks even more ancient and charming under the night sky. In order to avoid awkward atmosphere, William reached out and grabbed her handkerchief to wipe his own face, pointed to the Leifeng Pagoda standing by the lake, and casually changed the subject and asked her, "Is the Leifeng Pagoda in linen suppressing White Snake?" Song Yimin was stunned for a moment, then chuckled. "You really asked the right person. Let me tell you, as early as 1924, the Leifeng Pagoda collapsed accidentally, but at that time there was no condition for repair. It was not until 2001 that an archaeological team came to seal off and conduct archaeological excavations in conjunction with the reconstruction of the Leifeng Pagoda. In the end, they found that there was indeed a mystery under the pagoda, and they actually found a huge stone sealing the door. Is there really a white snake? William just asked casually just now, but now he was really curious. Song Yimin smiled and continued, "Whether there is a white snake or not depends on whether you believe it or not. Anyway, in the end, the archaeological team used a crane to move the boulder away, and underneath was a mysterious underground palace entrance, which contained many gold and silver offerings, as well as a gilded pagoda. In the center of the pagoda was a Buddhist treasure, the Buddha's hair bun, and many other precious cultural relics. And then a mysterious thing happened. There was actually a little white snake sleeping in one of the golden boxes. The archaeological experts were so scared at that time that they dared not touch the little white snake inside. They planned to take it back to the museum intact. But in the end, the strange thing was that the little white snake disappeared, and there was no sign that the golden box had been opened. Some people say that this little white snake is the white snake, Because the Leifeng pagoda collapsed, the archaeological team opened the seal of the huge stone, and the snake escaped from inside. Anyway, because of this incident, the Leifeng pagoda has become even more mysterious. Chapter 58, Why Don't You Come to My House and Sit Down? William really didn't know about these things, and was stunned when he heard them. Why haven't I heard of them? Did you make them up to deceive me? Song Yamin licked her red lips with a smile. Why would I lie to you? This incident was also reported in the news at the time. Those cultural relics are now stored in the Jiangnan Provincial Museum. William looked at Song Yamin's bright red lips, which looked even more seductive like a snake demon in the night. He widened his eyes in shock and said, Then you are not by Sujin, are you? I don't know whether the story is true or not, but as long as there is a reason to have fun, it will still be fun. Song Yamin immediately put on a charming and seductive expression and said delicately, Then you are not Su Xian, are you? William shook his head. No, I am Fa Hai, and I want to capture you. The snake demon. Song Yamin smiled charmingly, glanced at his pants, and licked her lips with her scarlet tongue. I am just a weak mortal, master. Please don't arrest me. Wow, you still say you're not a snake demon? I will summon divine thunder and put you into Leifeng Pagoda. William raised his hand to the sky in a pretentious manner. Song Yamin laughed so hard that her body shook, but she still said firmly, If you can summon the divine thunder, I will call you my good brother. Just as he finished speaking, a flash of lightning suddenly streaked across the night sky, accompanied by a roar of thunder. William burst into laughter. You snake demon, did you see that I, Fahai, have summoned the divine thunder? You don't want to go back to Leifeng Pagoda, do you? Song Yamin also laughed so hard that she kept patting his arms with her charming little hands. She knew that the weather forecast in Linen would rain tonight, so it was obviously William's luck that he happened to encounter thunder. It was not until the pleasure boat docked that the two people got off the boat and left reluctantly. The Leifeng Pagoda behind them still exuded a unique ancient charm. William drove Song Yamin home. Her family lived in a lakeside villa on the other side of West Lake. This is considered the most luxurious, expensive, and best villa area in Linen. Standing on the balcony, you can overlook the panoramic view of West Lake. William followed the navigation all the way to the entrance of Song Yamin's villa. How about coming into my house and sitting down? Song Yamin unbuckled her seatbelt and looked at William with her beautiful white legs sideways. William was a little surprised. After all, inviting the opposite sex to sit at home late at night is an ambiguous signal. Song Yamin naturally noticed this, her face slightly reddened, but she still pointed at his shirt that she had splashed with water. Your clothes will be hard to wash if they are stained with milk tea for too long. I'll ask my maid to help you wash and dry them, and it's better for you to go back later. Oh, that's fine. William didn't refuse and drove the car in directly. In fact, the company has already booked a luxury suite for him in the New Century Grand Hotel, which also comes with laundry service. But since Song Yamin said so, it would not be good to refuse. However, after getting off the car with Song Yamin, William couldn't help but look at Song Yamin beside him and asked her, If your mother saw me going home with you so late, she wouldn't say anything, right? He wasn't worried about being in the same room with Song Yamin in the dead of night, but it would feel a bit weird if he met Song Shuyuan at this time. Song Yamin glanced at him and said with a smile, It's okay. My mom went out to have dinner with Aunt Lu and won't be back so soon. William was relieved and followed Song Yamin through the outdoor garden to her home. Chapter 59, A Single Man and a Single Woman. The decoration style of the entire villa is that of a Chinese-style luxury house. It not only restores the traditional architectural style of old Jiangnan, but also combines a fashionable and comfortable space layout, fully demonstrating luxury and elegance. Song Yamin threw her bag on the cabinet at the door and bent down to take off her high heels. William just happened to turn around and saw her pouting coquettishly with her back to him. He quickly turned around and pretended to look at the decoration of the living room in the house. Song Yamin changed into slippers, then took out a pair of slippers from the closet and threw them at his feet with a smile. We don't have men's slippers at home. These are my mother's spare ones. Although they don't fit your size, you have no choice but to wear them first. William didn't mind. He took off his leather shoes and changed into slippers. However, they were a little small, with half of his ankle exposed. I guess her mother's feet are probably size 38 at most. Take off your clothes first, and I'll ask the maid to wash them. Song Yamin led him to the living room. Her legs were long and white with her back to William. Her feet were also very delicate. The toes that were sticking out of the slippers were painted with a mix of red and pink nail polish, which looked crystal clear. Take it off here? William widened his eyes slightly. It was not good for a single man and a single woman to be in the same room together and take off clothes in front of her, right? Moreover, this scene reminded him of the time when Susan broke into his room and dressed him. But maybe because of that experience, he wouldn't feel embarrassed now, and he was only wearing shorts last time, which was much better than now. Are you still shy? Song Yimin blinked and poured him a glass of water. William shrugged, since she didn't mind. What was there for him as a grown man to be afraid of? He just stood in the living room and took off his shirt in front of her. Song Yimin looked at William with his upper body bare. Although he didn't have any abdominal muscles or exaggerated muscles, the muscular lines on his young body made her blush unconsciously. I didn't expect you to have such a good figure. Song Yimin pretended to be calm as she handed him the cup of water and joked with a smile. Do you girls think I have a good figure? William was a little curious. Song Yimin put away her smile, rolled her eyes at him seriously, and said, You don't think that kind of muscular men are very popular with girls, do you? In fact, it's just like you guys look at those girls who have built up muscles through fitness. On the contrary, you don't think they are beautiful at all. So that's how it is, William said suddenly. Song Yimin raised the corners of her mouth delicately, blinked her watery eyes, and continued. However, it would definitely be better if you did some simple exercises. You don't need to do exaggerated ones. A more natural muscle curve and a few abdominal muscles would be perfect. I understand. I'll work out when I have time. William nodded. Then I'll take the clothes to the maid to wash. Song Yimin took the shirt from him, looked up at his naked upper body, and said with a smile, Why don't you go upstairs to take a shower and take off your pants and wash them together? I see that the milk tea stain is also stuck to the waistband of your pants. Sure. William also felt uncomfortable with the sticky sugar on his body, so he didn't bother to be polite with her. Song Yimin took him to the bathroom upstairs, waited for him to take off his pants and other clothes, and then carried the laundry basket to the maid's room next door. This Chinese-style mansion is naturally separated into a main house where the owner lives and servants' quarters. If there is no need, the maids will not come here casually to maintain some privacy for the owner. Chapter 60. Rich people know how to enjoy life. This bathroom is really big. It's bigger than your room, right? William stood in the luxurious bathroom and looked around, especially the bathtub. It was more like a pool than a bathtub, which could accommodate a person doggy paddling in it. This is the life of rich people. They really know how to enjoy life. William sighed, and without further delay, he took a towel and went under the shower to start taking a shower. At the same time, downstairs in the villa, a red Porsche was slowly stopping. The car door opened, and a pair of round and slender beautiful legs in black stockings and shiny high heels stepped out. Song Shuyuan got out of the car maturely and gracefully. She was wearing a halter dress, and her hot and plump body showed off her amazing curves. She was extremely radiant. A sports car, light makeup, a charming face, a soft waist, a plump figure, ultra-thin black stockings, and high heels make up a noble and cool style. In particular, there was a feminine aura on her that had been nurtured by time, leaving behind a round, smooth luster that made her charm even more pure and moving. Manhwa, did you drive back the car you lent to William so quickly? Song Shuyuan glanced at the Maybach parked next to her, which was obviously the one she had lent to William before. But she didn't care too much. She walked straight home with her black high heels tapping on the ground and steps full of seduction. Minyatilda. Song Shuyuan leaned on the cabinet at the entrance with her snow-white hands to change her shoes. Her long, curly black hair fell down, and she shouted into the living room. The devilish S-shaped curve fully outlines the charm of a mature woman. Where did this girl go? Song Shuyuan's pair of soft and shiny black silk feet stepped into slippers. She muttered something and stretched her waist lazily, preparing to go upstairs to take a shower. In the large bathroom on the second floor, the sound of water splashing could be faintly heard. So he was taking a bath. Song Shuyuan smiled and shook her head, reached out and pressed the door handle, and the bathroom door was not locked and was pushed open. A large mirror table, bathroom cabinet, and dry and wet separation design separate the bathtub and shower. The shower area was separated by frosted glass, with steam rising and water rushing, but one could only vaguely see a figure taking a shower. Song Shuyuan would occasionally take a bath with her daughter, so she didn't call her. She just closed the bathroom door, tied up her beautiful long wavy hair, and started to take off her suspender skirt. Her movements are still so elegant and noble. Even when she is standing in front of a large mirror admiring her figure alone, she still retains the charm of a mature woman. There is not even a trace of childbirth on the snow-white and soft belly. It is flat and elastic, with a deeply concave, long, diamond-shaped belly button, which is also very beautiful. I used the rose water bath before, and it seemed to be quite effective. Song Shuyuan was wearing only underwear, sitting sideways on a large mirror table with her legs bent. She pulled up her stockings and pulled them down, caressing the round and delicate skin of her thighs with self-satisfaction. As she has no shortage of material enjoyment, she naturally cherishes her body very much. Even though only she and her daughter can appreciate it, she has never been careless about taking care of and protecting her body just because she is no man. The beautiful body raised by a wealthy family is naturally more snow-white and tender than many girls. At the same time, it has the softness unique to mature women and emits a soft light under the light. Chapter 61, Mr. Song. This is a misunderstanding. Song Shuyuan took off her stockings, got down from the large mirror, and walked towards the shower area in her underwear, tiptoeing elegantly and walking barefoot on the wooden board. "Minna, are you done? Mommy will put some hot water in the bathtub, and we'll take a bath together later." Song Shuyuan knocked on the frosted glass casually, walked to the bathtub next to her, bent her soft waist, lay down on the side, and turned on the water valve. Standing in the shower room, William, who was washing his hair, felt some noise outside, but he couldn't hear it clearly. The exhaust fan whirred out the hot air from the shower area, and the frosted glass was also covered with fog by the hot air. William turned off the shower with some confusion, wrung out the towel, and wiped his face and hair, then opened the glass door and looked outside. Well, there's no one there? It must be an illusion. William didn't care much, stepped out of the shower, and planned to dry his body with a towel. "So fast. I thought you hadn't finished showering yet, so mommy should go in and shower too." Song Shuyuan heard the noise behind her, stood up with the help of the bathtub, and turned to look. William's expression suddenly changed. He turned around, and his eyes widened instantly. "Damn it, why is Mr. Song here?" The two stared at each other in surprise. Both of them were surprised to see each other here. Even the entire air was filled with Song Shuyuan's particularly attractive body fragrance of a mature woman, which made people intoxicated. "William, were you the one taking a shower in there just now?" Song Shuyuan reacted quickly. Her face turned red involuntarily. Her eyes flickered and blurred, and she hurriedly covered her eyes with her hands. "I was really out of my mind. I subconsciously thought that the bathroom in my house should only be used by my daughter for bathing." William had come to his senses by now, and without even bothering to dry himself, he quickly grabbed a bathrobe and put it on. He was very embarrassed and could only give a quick and simple explanation. "Mr. Song, it's me. I accidentally spilled milk tea on my clothes tonight, so he lent me the bathroom so I could take a shower." "Then why didn't you lock the door?" Song Shuyuan's ears felt hot, and she was actually a little flustered. She could only grab a bathrobe and wrap it around herself to avoid exposing her naked body. She was obviously still wearing underwear, which was actually similar to a bikini at the beach or swimming pool, but different occasions have different opinions, so she was still a little embarrassed at this moment. William said embarrassedly, "I didn't have the habit of locking the door at home before, and I never thought someone would come in." Song Shuyuan's charming face was red as if it was dripping blood. She covered her chest and continued to ask, "I clearly spoke just now. Didn't you hear it? Why didn't you remind me?" She had never experienced such a shameful thing before, and she always took the opportunity to vent the embarrassment in her heart. William gave an innocent smile. "I'm washing my hair. The water from the shower is rushing over my head. The sound of the water, plus the sound of the exhaust fan and the hot air covering the glass, it's hard for me to hear or notice you coming in." Song Shuyuan naturally knew that he was telling the truth, but when she thought about how embarrassing she had been in front of him just now, she felt very aggrieved. William noticed her expression and could only cough and continue. "Mr. Song, this is all a misunderstanding. I won't tell anyone. Let's just pretend that it never happened." Chapter 62. Heart Pounding. Song Shuyuan thought about it, and it seemed that this was the only solution. She turned her charming eyes to William and said coquettishly, "You are lucky." William scratched his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "Mr. Song, I'll go out first." Seeing his expression, Song Shuyuan wondered if she had been shirking responsibility too much. Her eyes gradually softened and she smiled. "Go ahead. Remember, nothing happened just now." William breathed a sigh of relief and turned to leave the bathroom. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the bathroom door, and then Song Imin's voice was heard. "William, are you done with your shower? My mom is back, and I just found her car parked downstairs. Your mother is here. William slammed on the brakes and his face turned strange. Because Song Shuyuan was holding his arm tightly from behind. Don't go out yet. Song Shuyuan quickly lowered her voice and spoke nervously into William's ear. In this situation, how could she dare let her daughter see her and William in the bathroom? Putting aside whether my daughter has a crush on William, I am a mother, and I am staying in the bathroom with a young guy. If my daughter saw it, wouldn't it be so embarrassing? Should I explain to my daughter, Minner, your mother is really not an old cow eating young grass? William also reacted quickly and shouted to the door. Oh, I see. I'll do it as soon as possible. Although he doesn't have any ambiguous relationship with Song Yimin now. After all, he has made friends with her today. But now, she was in the bathroom with her biological mother. She couldn't wash herself clean even if she jumped into the Yellow River. So, now he just wanted to get Song Yimin away first, otherwise he really couldn't leave the bathroom. Song Shiyuan had the same thought and looked nervously in the direction of the bathroom door. What made the two of them feel uneasy was that the door handle was suddenly pressed down at an angle by someone, and then Song Yimin's voice was heard again. Hey, William, why didn't you lock the door when you took a shower? Did you leave the door open for me? Song Shuyuan was afraid that her daughter would really push the door open, so she subconsciously hid behind William. William was also startled. Your mother just broke in. As her daughter, you'd better not cause trouble. Yimin, stop joking. I just forgot to lock the door. You should go downstairs and check on your mother. Don't let her come up and accidentally break into the bathroom. William said quickly. Song Shuyuan, who was hiding behind him, stretched out her beautiful little hand without warning and pinched his waist fiercely. She whispered in anger and shame. Are you teasing me on purpose? I'm telling the truth. William was pinched by her gorgeous rhinestone manicure and could only grit his teeth to explain innocently. Fortunately, Song Yimin didn't really want to push the door open. She laughed sweetly. I'm just teasing you. Go wash up quickly. I'll go check the living room downstairs first. The door handle was soon restored to its original state, and there was no more noise coming from outside. I don't know whether I should be thankful that it wasn't Susan outside, otherwise Sister Susan would definitely push the door open. Mr. Song, I'll be out first. William didn't like to sit still and wait for the outcome, so he brought up the subject again. Wait a moment. Song Shuyuan held his arm, frowned, and said, You going out won't solve the problem. Minna is looking for me downstairs now. When she can't find me, she will definitely come up again. If she finds me alone in the bathroom, she will probably guess whether we were both in there just now. Chapter 63. Rich Lady Song wants to eat people. What should we do now? William turned his head to look at the beautiful face of the wealthy woman from Linen. Song Shuyuan rolled her eyes at him in anger, looking particularly charming and seductive. What else can I do? You continue to stay here and leave later. I should be the one to slip away. Anyway, I can't be seen by Minner in this bathroom. That's right, the person who broke in was you, Mr. Song, and I did nothing wrong. William also figured it out. It was the rich woman in front of him who should be feeling guilty. He was just a victim. Song Shuyuan was so embarrassed by what he said. To be honest, most of the responsibility for this accident lies with her. However, thinking that he had seen her entire body in her underwear, she raised her snow-white foot and stepped on him in shame. Mr. Song, why are you still stepping on people? William pretended to cry out in pain. The rich Lady Song's beautiful feet are soft and slippery, so it won't hurt if she steps on them. If she doesn't give any revengeful effect, the rich lady will definitely feel a little unbalanced. Sure enough, when Song Shuyuan saw him jumping up and down and screaming in pain, a smile involuntarily appeared on the corner of her mouth. You deserve it. Song Shuyuan snorted and walked towards the door with her long legs. In order not to leave any clues, she also picked up the clothes she had taken off earlier from the dirty clothes basket. Then he lay on the bathroom door, holding his clothes, and listened for a while. He quietly reached out and opened the door, then looked outside through the crack. William was standing behind and found the sneaky behavior of Mrs. Song a little funny. It was just like the adultery in those movies. Especially since Mrs. Song was wearing a bathrobe with a belt around her waist. She looked even slimmer. The half of her snow-white calves that were exposed underneath made her skin look crystal clear and charming. After looking for a while, Song Shuyuan seemed to put her doubts aside. She quickly opened the bathroom door and turned sideways to walk out. Mr. Song, wait a moment. William suddenly called her from behind. Song Shuyuan was almost frightened to death by him at this tense moment. She turned back and glared at him fiercely. What are you doing? William saw her expression as if she was going to eat him, and suddenly he was sweating profusely. No, it's okay. You be careful. Song Shuyuan rolled her eyes at him. Then, without saying a word, she tiptoed out of the bathroom with her clothes in her arms. William heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the bathroom door close. He then hurried to the door where Mrs. Song had just stood, picked up a pair of black stockings on the ground, and put them in his bathrobe pocket. It's not that he has any fetish, he just cleans up the scene promptly. He had wanted to remind Mrs. Song just now, but she looked like she was going to eat him, so he simply didn't bother her and just helped her deal with the things she left behind. After finishing these things, William was not in a hurry to leave the bathroom. He first stood in front of the large mirror and dried his hair with a hairdryer, then walked out of the bathroom wearing a bathrobe. Hey, William, have you seen my mother? As luck would have it, Song Yamin strolled downstairs and didn't see Song Shuyuan, so she went upstairs again. William had nothing to hide now, so he didn't need to feel guilty. He pretended to be puzzled and said, I just came out of the bathroom. How could I see Mr. Song? That's true. Song Yamin casually glanced at the wide-open bathroom and then glanced at the bedroom at the end. Oh, my mother should be in the room. I didn't see her door was closed just now. Chapter 64, Son-in-Law Visits. There is more than one passage to the second floor of the villa, so this would not cause any speculation. William said politely, You mean, should I say hello to Mr. Song first? No need. Just say hello when you meet her. Let's go downstairs and sit in the living room. Song Yamin smiled, then blinked her charming eyes and looked at William, saying, There has never been a boy wearing a bathrobe in our family, especially at this time of night. It feels a bit weird. William deliberately teased. Does it feel like having a son-in-law come to visit? Song Yamin bit her red lips and rolled her eyes at him. You are dreaming. You want to be the son-in-law of our Song family. If I want to be your stepfather, will you beat me to death? William didn't know why such a thought came up in his mind. It was probably because he was infected by the atmosphere in the bathroom with Song Shuyuan just now. He could only laugh and said, Let's go. Is there anything to drink? I'm a little thirsty. Song Yamin led the way, twisting her waist. She didn't mind the joke and continued chatting with him. It will probably take about an hour for your clothes to be washed and dried, so you'll have to stay at my house a little longer. No problem. I don't have anything to do at night anyway, so I'll just hang out at your house for a while. So where do you want to go tomorrow? After your investment promotion conference is over the day after tomorrow, you should be going back to the Magic City, right? Well, tomorrow is the last day of the month. You can decide where to go. I'm not really familiar with it. Okay, I'll take you around Linen tomorrow. Sister? I still remember someone said I could summon divine thunder and call me a good brother. You wish. You are 1 year younger than me, so it's okay for you to call me sister. William and Song Yamin came to the living room downstairs, discussed tomorrow's itinerary, and agreed on the time and place to meet tomorrow. More than half an hour has passed. At this time, footsteps were heard coming from the direction of the stairs. Song Shuyuan, wearing a beige silk nightgown, appeared at the stairs with her long legs walking gracefully, holding the stairs. Mom, you're finally down. Song Yamin pouted and jumped up from the sofa. Mr. Song, good evening. William also stood up and looked at the wealthy Lady Song. Song Shuyuan had obviously taken a shower. Her face was bare and pretty. Her long black hair was tied up with a wooden hairpin and hung behind her head. The exaggerated curves of a mature woman made her soft and tight nightgown look particularly full. And because the skirt is made of tulle and breathable, you can vaguely see the plump and white long legs underneath. Song Shuyuan saw William. She pretended to be a little surprised. When did Director Sue come to visit? I didn't see you just now. Why are you still wearing a bathrobe? Song Yamin quickly explained to him. Mom, this is what happened. Tonight, William and I went to visit Westlake after dinner, and I accidentally spilled milk tea on him. So when he sent me back just now, I asked him to come in, change his clothes, and take a bath, and I asked the servant to help him wash the tea stains off his shirt. She didn't want her mother to misunderstand William's character and leave a bad impression on her. Oh, so that's how it is? Song Shuyuan nodded in understanding, swaying her long, round legs. She pointed at the sofa, motioning everyone to sit down and talk. Chapter 65, It's Wrong, Aunt Song. Mr. Song, I'm sorry to bother you by visiting you at night. William had just sat down when he found Song Shuyuan walking up to sit next to him. A warm and fragrant breeze suddenly blew in his face. William, you don't have to be so polite when you come to my house. Just call me Aunt Song. Song Shuyuan smiled indifferently, pretending to be natural. Okay, Aunt Song, William also changed his address. Song Shuyuan nodded with a smile, then looked at her daughter. Minner, heat me a cup of milk. Yeah. Song Yimin responded and walked towards the kitchen. Generally, they don't need to call a maid for such small tasks that they can do themselves, especially small tasks like this that can reflect the close relationship between mother and daughter. Just as Song Yimin's figure disappeared from the two people's sight, Song Shuyuan immediately turned around and glared at William, then whispered in his ear, "Did you steal my stockings?" She was afraid that her daughter might hear her talking, so she moved closer to William. "It's unfair. Aunt Song, am I that kind of person?" William looked at this gorgeous and charming woman from a close distance, with an expression of injustice on his face. "It must have been you who took it. I just returned to the room and found that my stockings were missing from the clothes I was holding. After I finished taking a shower, I quietly went back to look for it, but couldn't find it. Who else could have taken it except you?" Song Shuyuan lowered her voice and sneered. "I can admit this, but I didn't steal it. You dropped it when you went out before, and I called you to remind you." William looked at her face seriously and replied, "Then why didn't you say it then?" Song Shuyuan said with a fierce look at him. "You look like you wanted to eat me, so how could I dare say anything? You were in a hurry to leave, so I could only help you hide the evidence after you left. Otherwise, Emin would have seen it long ago." William did not admit defeat, but continued to stare at her plump face. Song Shuyuan looked at him closely, but she didn't feel disgusted. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, with a charming smile. "So I have to thank you?" William waved his hand casually. "No need to thank me, we are friends. I am just helping you. I just realized how shameless you are." Song Shuyuan bit her red lips and glared at him. William didn't dodge, just met her gaze and said with a smile, "I'll just think that you are praising me, Aunt Song." If it were him in the past, he might have felt a little embarrassed, but after Susan's harassment and his growth during this period, he became calm and at ease. Therefore, the environment and the people you come into contact with are very important factors in reshaping yourself. "You." Song Shuyuan looked at him, with her eyes widened. She felt panic for no reason and avoided his gaze. She rolled her eyes at him charmingly and said, "Where are my stockings? Give them back to me." In fact, she was quite curious about William. Logically speaking, it would be difficult for a man of his age to look her in the eye calmly, especially when they were in unequal status. However, William's eyes did not have that feeling of lack of confidence, which meant that he was confident enough in his state of mind and confidence. At the same time, there was no greed with impure motives in his clear eyes. In short, this is a man who can arouse her interest and make her think about him. Chapter 66, very harmonious and peaceful. Since it's evidence, I shouldn't just give it to you, right? Otherwise, what if Aunt Song accuses me wrongly, just like you just accused me of stealing? William looked at the helpless, mature, rich woman with interest. "I apologize for my choice of words just now. Please give it back to me. It's useless for you to take it," Song Shuyuan said at the end. No one knew what she was thinking about. Her mature face was flushed. William felt that he had teased enough, so he nodded and said, "Okay, I'll give it back to you right away." As he spoke, he reached into the pocket of his bathrobe and was about to take out his stockings. "Mom, the milk is here." Song Yamin came out of the kitchen holding a cup of hot milk. William and Song Shuyuan almost subconsciously sat up straight and kept their distance from each other. "William, is this tea delicious? Bring some tea leaves when you go back. Annie is old and can't sleep at night if she drinks tea. She can only drink milk." "Okay, thank you, Aunt Song. No wonder your skin is so good." It turns out that Aunt Song takes good care of her health. The two of them pretended to chat casually, creating a very harmonious and peaceful atmosphere. Song Yimin handed the hot milk to her own mother and said with a smile on her pretty face, "My mother has beautiful skin because she is naturally beautiful, and she also practices yoga. People who don't know us think we are sisters. No wonder I thought Aunt Song was your sister when I first met you." William smiled, calmly put the stockings back into his pocket, and stretched out his hand again. Song Shuyuan held the cup and took a sip of hot milk. She lowered her head and glanced at him fiercely out of the corner of her eye. When she looked up, she had returned to her gentle smile. "You two young men, stop teasing me. Did you enjoy your date out tonight?" Song Yamin took her mother's hand and sat beside her, saying coquettishly, "Mom, this is not a date. We are just normal friends going out to play." William looked at Song Shuyuan's smiling face and couldn't help but suggest, "Aunt Song, Yamin and I have an appointment to go hiking tomorrow. If you are free, why not join us?" He didn't know if it was because he had never felt maternal love since childhood, but he felt that a mature and beautiful woman like Song Shuyuan was more attractive to him than her daughter. After all, Song Yimin is still missing that bit of restrained, yet extroverted gentleness that is unique to a mature woman as time goes by. Therefore, I'm quite looking forward to and enjoying having more contact with this wealthy woman from Linen. I'm an old aunt. I won't disturb you young people, right? Song Shiyuan covered her plump red lips with a smile. Mom, we're just hiking normally. No need to disturb us. Song Yimin's charming face blushed slightly, and she shook her mother's arm coquettishly. Okay then. Song Shiyuan glanced at William with a half smile. Then I'll go hiking with you guys tomorrow. It's a good opportunity to exercise. Just at this moment, a maid came in from the side door with folded clothes in her hands. Miss, the clothes you requested have been washed and dried, and all the tea stains have been removed. Okay, just give me the clothes and you can go back and rest first. Song Amin jumped to take the clothes and sent the maid away. William stood up and said goodbye at the right time. Then I'll change my clothes and go back first. It's quite late. Although Song Shuyuan still remembered that her stockings were in his pocket, she did not say anything to keep him. Chapter 67. The Uncooperative Rich Lady Song. After all, there are only two women living in the house, Song Shuyuan and her daughter. Although there are many maids next door, it is still a bit inconvenient. After all, the mother and daughter had only met this young man twice and had only known him for a short time. William didn't think much about it. He followed Song Yamin to the guest room on the second floor and changed his clothes. He looked at the bathrobe thrown aside and finally picked it up, took out the stockings from the pocket, and put them into the pocket of his casual trousers. If Song Yimin finds this thing in his pocket when she helps him take the bathrobe back, she might really think he stole it from somewhere. William didn't want to be considered a pervert, so he had to put it in his own pocket first. Go back downstairs to the living room. William winked at Song Shuyuan, motioned for her to go out with him, and then returned the stockings to her. Song Shuyuan received his gaze, stood up gracefully without making a sound, and said to her daughter with a smile, Minner, please send William off. Mom is a little sleepy, so I'll go upstairs to rest first. Okay, William, let's go. Song Yimin smiled and turned around to greet William. William opened his eyes wide. Why was this different from what he expected? But at this point, he could only helplessly follow Song Yimin out of the villa. Song Shuyuan no longer cared about her appearance. She immediately shook her long and plump legs and ran upstairs. She went to the guest room, picked up the bathrobe that was thrown on the chair, and searched the pockets. How come it's not there? Didn't that guy tell me to go up and destroy the body quickly? Where are my stockings? Song Shuyuan almost turned her bathrobe over and over, frowning her beautiful eyebrows. Just then, a text message popped up on her phone. Song Shuyuan immediately dropped her bathrobe and picked it up to check. Aunt Song, you are so stupid. I winked at you to send me out, and then I would return the stockings to you. Why did you let him send me out? Now your stockings are still with me. This kid actually called me stupid? Song Shuyuan's plump chest heaved with anger, and she walked to the window and looked out, shaking her plump thighs. All I could see was the headlights of the Maybach William was driving away. It had started raining outside, and the reflection of the headlights created ripples on the water. Song Shuyuan decisively picked up her phone and typed, You little bastard, stop the car right now and return my stockings. William drove the car out of the villa and finally had time to stop by the roadside to check the message sent by Song Shuyuan. By this time, he had already figured out why Song Shuyuan asked him to send him off. It was simply because she was receiving the wrong signal. After seeing the text message from Aunt Song, I shook my head in amusement and typed a reply. Aunt Song, who told you that you and I have no tacit understanding at all? Do you still have the nerve to come out now? I'm already outside on the side of the road, and it's raining outside. Aren't you afraid that Emin will misunderstand that you came out to have an affair with me? At this time, Song Shuyuan had already returned to her bedroom from the guest room. She was lying on the soft, big bed, covered with a thin quilt, revealing only her smooth and charming shoulders and arms. That's right, this rich woman from Linen doesn't like to wear clothes when she sleeps, because she is restless when she sleeps, and when she turns over, her nightgown will be wrinkled and make her body uncomfortable. Now seeing that this brat who dared to call her stupid had finally replied to the text message, she was so angry that her round shoulders were shaking, and she felt conflicted and annoyed. Chapter 68. Old Cow Eating Young Grass. At this time, Song Shuyuan was naturally not suitable to go out, but when she saw the word affair in the message and her personal belongings were still in the hands of that brat, she couldn't help feeling a little ashamed and angry. So, what are you going to do now? Song Shuyuan took a deep breath to relax herself, then typed the question to William. My silly aunt's Song. Can I still send them back to you now? I can only go back to the hotel and sleep first, and I will return the stockings to you tomorrow. You are the stupid one. Don't call me stupid again. Song Shuyuan bit her plump lips, suppressing her anger and shame, and quickly typed back a curse. From childhood to adulthood, apart from a few female friends, it seems that this brat is the only one who dares to mess with me like this. There had been men who dared to tease her, and they had already paid a nightmarish price. After all, among her friends, there is Queen Yang of the Magic City, who has an iron fist and can sink people into the Huangpu River. Okay, I was wrong. William was flexible and did not bother with this rich woman who was about to explode. Then go back and rest first. And remember to return the stockings to me tomorrow. Song Shuyuan thought about it and realized there was really no other way, so she could only follow William's plan. If this brat dares to do anything wrong again, Queen Yang should really give him a good lesson. It just so happens that this kid will be returning to the Magic City soon. No problem. I will bring the stockings back to you intact tomorrow. William replied honestly. Song Shuyuan finally calmed down, but couldn't help but continue typing. Why did you mention the word intact? Did you originally plan to take my stockings back and do something weird? Aunt Song, how can you slander my image? Am I that kind of person? Can I take it back and make a cup of silk stocking milk tea? Seeing that he seemed angry, Song Shuyuan couldn't help laughing. You deserve it. You made me angry all night. Okay, that's it. I'm going to sleep. Okay, see you tomorrow. When Song Shuyuan saw the last message William replied to, she smiled self-deprecatingly. Could it be that she really had some special feelings for this guy? Otherwise, how could I just let him take away the stockings I had worn for a whole day? It's impossible. There must be too many unexpected things happening tonight, which made my mind a little confused. How could an old lady like her have feelings for a young guy? Wouldn't that really be like an old cow eating young grass? If my friends knew this, they would laugh at me to death. Song Shuyuan shook her head helplessly and amusedly, threw her phone aside, and stopped thinking about it. At the same time, in the presidential suite of New Century Grand Hotel linen, Yang Li crossed her legs like a queen, listening to Fiona's report while sitting on the sofa and leisurely sipping red wine. That is to say, my Yanger might still be at Shu Yuan's house? Well, William went out to dinner with Shu Yuan's minner tonight, and they haven't come back yet. Judging from the development level of their relationship, it's impossible for them to do anything else. He must have gone to their house as a guest. Fiona nodded and smiled brightly. Susan twisted her waist to add some red wine to Aunt Yu and Aunt Lou's glasses, tilted her head and smiled. Our young master is still very charming. Even without anyone knowing his true identity, he was able to get Emin to go out and have dinner with him alone. If she knew Iang's identity, wouldn't she be even more crazy and devoted to him? Chapter 69, The Most Important Treasure in Life. Fiona also smiled charmingly with some ambiguity in her words, teasing her friend. I don't know what will happen to Minner, but if Shu Yuan knew that William is Yang Li's biological son, she would probably strip Minner naked and send him to William's room, and then she could become Yang Li's in-laws. Yang Li did not join in their conversation. Instead, she shook her red wine glass, gracefully stood up and stood in front of the French window, looking at the rain outside, with a hint of sadness between her brows. Having not seen her son for so many days, she missed him more and more. Even if she could only see him from a distance, it would still make her happy for a long time. Yang Li knew that her son was very busy these days, so she didn't bother him. But she actually doesn't care about her son's career, because no matter what, her son will always be a little pride in her heart. Mom is still in her prime and can use her life to give him the best life. I don't know whether he has eaten well, slept well, or taken good care of himself during this period. Ever since she knew Yang was still alive in this world, Yang Li's life has been pinned on him, and she will only live for him in this life. But unfortunately, Yang is still unable to accept her as his mother. Yang Li really wanted to give her baby son a hug full of motherly love, but she can't do it now. Son, how can I make you accept me? Yang Li stared blankly at the night lights outside. The rain hit the glass, forming water scratches, and the light through the water was very blurry. The big tree was swaying in the wind and rain, and the leaves fell with the raindrops. The suppressed memories of 22 years ago burst out uncontrollably like the drizzle. Yang Li was exhausted lying in the delivery room, but when she saw her newborn son with her own eyes, she still smiled with the radiance of great motherhood. When he opened his round eyes and looked at the mother who doted on him without limits. When he cried and peed in the arms of his mother, who let him do whatever he wanted. Yongli knew that for her, having billions of wealth was not as good as holding him for this moment. No one and nothing in the world can surpass his beloved son. This world is so special that her son doesn't have to do anything, and she will love him, spoil him, and give him everything for no reason. Think about how when my son was still just babbling, I would approach him with a sweet smile and ask him, "Am I beautiful? Do you love me?" Yang Li's heart was filled with melancholy, and she felt a little breathless. She raised her hand and rubbed her throbbing chest. "Yang Li, are you okay?" Fiona noticed her friend's condition and quickly stood up to hold her slender waist. Yang Li withdrew her thoughts and shook her head gently. Fiona sighed softly. No wonder they say sons are their mother's nemesis. When had she ever seen this side of Yang Li? This was the cold and domineering woman who was known as the Queen of Magic City in China. "Aunt Yu, I just saw the text message from Xiaoqing. She saw that the young master has returned." Susan also reported the newly received information in a timely manner. When Yang Li heard this, her originally beautiful oval face suddenly regained its radiance. "I can finally see the most important baby in my life again." Chapitre 70 Suzanne est surprise. On the other side, William parked his car in the hotel's underground parking lot and took the elevator back to the luxurious suite that the company had booked for him. Although he knew from Song Yimin that President Liu and Song Shiyuan had a dinner date tonight and should also be staying at the Kaiyuan Mingdu Hotel. But he did not go to see Mr. Liu to report his work situation at this time. After all, it is already past 10 o'clock in the evening, and it would be bad to disturb the leader's rest. And just after William returned to his room and changed into pajamas, I saw a WeChat video prompt pop up on my phone. William picked up the phone and took a look. Who else could it be but Susan? During this period, Susan would dress up carefully every day, and after he returned to the hotel at night, she would persistently call him via video to chat. So William got used to it and just connected to the WeChat video. "Aying, are you tired today?" On the screen, Susan appeared in front of him in a red halter dress, looking soft and charming. "I'm not tired. I've finished my recent work. After returning to London today, I went for a stroll around the West Lake with my business partner. It was quite relaxing." William lazily leaned against the head of the bed and found a comfortable position to video chat with her. "When will you come back? I miss you. Wait a couple of days. Anyway, we can go back after the investment promotion conference." "Then didn't you miss me?" Susan looked as if she wanted to say something, but was too shy. "We post videos every day. What's there to think about?" William said with a smile. "Really don't want to? I'll give you benefits." Susan lay on the bed facing the camera and soon put her arm under her chin to block the view. William swallowed and said, "I missed you." Susan then proudly moved her arm away and supported her cheek with her small hand and said tenderly, "Aying, I have a surprise to tell you now. Do you want to hear it? Can I choose not to listen?" William replied in a serious tone while enjoying the beautiful scenery. "No, you must listen." Susan immediately showed a resentful expression. "Then go ahead and say it." "I'm not refusing to listen." William rolled his eyes. Susan smiled happily and said, "The surprise is, I'm in London to see you. Right here on the 19th floor of your hotel, room 1905. Come up." "No way." William was a little surprised. He looked at the room in the video carefully. It was indeed not like Susan's boudoir in the previous video. It was more like the layout of a hotel. "Why would I lie to you? Come up quickly. I'll wait for you," Susan said in a coquettish voice. "I'll be right there." William hung up the video immediately after saying this and climbed out of bed. Be a lie to say, I didn't miss Susan after not seeing her in person for so many days. William didn't change his clothes either. His pajamas were just normal short-sleeved shirts and shorts, so he was perfectly fine to go out. I just took the room card and phone, went out and took the elevator to the presidential suite at 1905 on the 19th floor. As soon as I knocked on the door, the room was opened. Susan, dressed sexy in a red dress and black stockings, opened the door for him with a smile. "You really came?" William still felt that it was a bit dreamy to see her in this place, but his eyes looked at her unsteadily. "It's standing right in front of you. How could it be fake?" Susan blinked, pulled his arm, and walked inside, locking the door. "How come you have time to come here today? And so late, and you didn't even call me in advance?" Chapter 71, Silent Guardian. William sat on the sofa next to Susan, looking carefully at Sister Susan, who looked particularly fair, tender, and charming under the light. Can it still be called a surprise if I tell you in advance? Susan pouted and rushed over to kiss him. Don't think too much. Come and give your sister a kiss.